Chapter 492. Li Changsheng also curled his lips. In the perception of his divine sense, there were indeed several people with powerful qi and blood in those cars at the moment, which meant that the other party had refined their physique to a very powerful level. However, the so-called powerful was only compared to ordinary martial artists. In Li Changsheng's eyes, they were not even a slightly stronger ant. Li Changsheng could not help but show a bit of surprise in his eyes. Luo Dan, who was sitting next to him, had qi fluctuations on her body. Although the qi fluctuations were very weak in Li Changsheng's eyes, it was enough to explain one thing. Luo Dan was a cultivator. No wonder Luo Dan looked very confident, even though he had shown extraordinary strength several times. It turned out that this was where her confidence came from. What are you looking at? Originally, Li Changsheng shamelessly sat next to her, which made Luo Dan a little unhappy. Now that she saw Li Changsheng looking straight at her, and that gaze didn't avoid her at all, it made her angry. How do you know I'm looking at you if you don't look at me? Li Changsheng said with a glib tongue. Do you believe that I won't throw you out of the car? Luo Dan said angrily. I don't believe it. Li Changsheng shrugged his shoulders. Luo Dan clenched her jade-like hands, and an aura arose from her body. However, seeing Li Changsheng's fearless look, she finally retracted her aura. Don't test my patience, or you'll regret it. Luo Dan turned her head back and picked up the magazine again. She read very fast. She had already read this part of the magazine once, but because she was really bored, she began to read it a second time. Li Changsheng crossed his legs and looked out the window at the buildings that were constantly moving backward. Luo Dan was too similar to the older. She was so similar that her every move carried her own shadow. There would not be two identical flowers in the world. The saying of reincarnation had existed since ancient times, but whether there was really an afterlife or not, even Li Changsheng could not say. Luo Dan, is it really her? Luo Dan was really bored. Just as she was about to close the magazine, she turned her head and saw a pair of eyes staring at her. However, there was no greed in his gaze. Instead, it was mixed with a lot of sadness and tenderness. Those eyes actually caused Luo Dan's heartstrings to involuntarily tremble. The words of reprimand that were originally at the tip of her tongue could no longer leave her mouth. Soon, the car arrived at its destination. It was a skyscraper that soared into the sky. It was also a very famous building in Qingzhou, the Cloud Sky Building. Immediately, someone came up and opened the car door. The entire parking lot was filled with luxury cars. Li Changsheng followed beside Luo Dan. The melancholy in his eyes had long since disappeared, and he regained his indifferent look. The two of them walked into the building under the escort of their subordinates and went all the way to the top floor. Today, there will be an auction here. A treasure passed down from the Ming Dynasty will be auctioned. People from all walks of life will come. The temptation of that treasure is very great. Many big shots of the underworld will appear. I am determined to get that treasure, so it is inevitable that there will be conflicts. Do you see the group of subordinates behind me? Each of them is a master who can fight against 10 people. Even with them, they still can't guarantee my safety. So, if you don't want to lose your life here, you can leave now. Later, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Luo Dan said to Li Changsheng as they walked forward. It's okay. If I die under a peony, I'll be a romantic ghost. Li Changsheng smiled. Suddenly, Luo Dan glared fiercely at Li Changsheng. However, there was obviously not much lethality in this glare. It was more like the flirting between a young couple. Luo Dan seemed to be aware of this, and her face was slightly red. When everyone came to the hall, a lineup like Luo Dan's did not attract much attention. This was because it could be seen that no matter which table the people were sitting at, there were several imposing bodyguards behind them. The auction had not yet begun, but it gave people a kind of hostile atmosphere. It seemed that a conflict would break out at any time. Thinking of Luo Dan's words just now, Li Changsheng knew that what Luo Dan said was not an alarmist. I have an appointment with a friend first. Let's go meet him. After Luo Dan came in, they went straight inside. There were several private rooms inside, and there were people guarding the door. Obviously, it was provided for the people in the hall to talk about private matters. Didn't you say that you want to pursue me? The person you're going to meet now is also your rival in love. When you see him later, you'll know how difficult it is to pursue me. It's 100 times more difficult than climbing Mount Everest because your opponents are too strong. Luo Dan had already walked to the door of the private room while talking. In fact, she had been observing the expression on Li Changsheng's face with the corner of her eye, but she was disappointed to find that Li Changsheng had no expression at all. "Boss Luo, please come in." The two people guarding the door obviously knew Luo Dan and did not stop her at all. Luo Dan knocked on the door. After hearing the sound of "please come in," she pushed the door and walked in. Li Changsheng was by Luo Dan's side, so he was not stopped. As for Luo Dan's other bodyguards, they could only stand outside. The private room was not big. There was a big sofa, a coffee table, and an LCD TV hanging on the wall, but the decoration was quite luxurious. On the sofa, a young man took the initiative to stand up after seeing Luo Dan come in. "Boss Luo, I have been waiting for you for half an hour." As he said, his eyes swept over Li Changsheng next to him without leaving a trace. He wondered, "This is my bodyguard." It seemed that Luo Dan was afraid that Li Changsheng would say something that should not be said, so she spoke first. "I'm not her bodyguard. I am her friend." After Luo Dan spoke, Li Changsheng immediately retorted. For Li Changsheng's words, Luo Dan, who was quite dissatisfied, glared at Li Changsheng fiercely. Li Changsheng did not care and sat down directly. It seemed that he could not see through the relationship between Li Changsheng and Luo Dan for a while. The man took the initiative to reach out to Li Changsheng and introduced himself. "Wei Jingyu, General Manager of Big Bay Entertainment." Li Changsheng also reached out and shook his hand gently and said, "Li Changsheng, student of Qingzhou University." When the other party heard it, the doubts in his eyes deepened. A college student was so close to Luo Dan, so he could not guess Li Changsheng's identity for a while. It turns out to be brotherly. Wei Jingyu smiled and took the initiative to pour a cup of tea for Li Changsheng and put it in front of Li Changsheng. Then he put his hands on his knees and looked at Luo Dan. "Boss Luo, I know that you're determined to get that treasure, but you also know that you're not the only one who is determined to get that thing. Today, they're all big shots from all walks of life. It is not so easy for you to snatch the food from the tiger's mouth. We're doing business. If you want me to help you, you have to pay at least this price." The other party stretched out 5 fingers. 5 million? Luo Dan could not help but frown. Unexpectedly, the other party shook his head. "No, it is 50 million. Chapter 493. Isn't 50 million a little too much? Luo Dan took a deep breath. Obviously, she couldn't accept this number. "Miss Luo Dan, you must have seen it when you came in. None of the people here today are simple. If I help you get the treasure, how many enemies will I have to make? 50 million is already a cheap price. Of course, if Miss Luo Dan is willing to accept the villa in the west of the city, I can give you the treasure for free. How about it?" After speaking, he looked at Luo Dan with a smile. The villa in the west of the city was his proposal gift to Luo Dan, but Luo Dan rejected it. If Luo Dan accepted his villa in the west of the city, it would be equivalent to accepting his confession. "If I give you 50 million, can you really help me get the treasure?" Luo Dan asked. Hearing Luo Dan's words, Wei Jingyu shook his head. "No, I can only say that I'll help you, but as for whether you can achieve your goal, I can't guarantee it." This, Luo Dan was a little hesitant. She knew that he was telling the truth, but using 50 million to buy something that couldn't be guaranteed was obviously a little risky for Luo Dan. "I'll think about it." "All right." The other party smiled, then turned and walked out of the room. "I'll be in the hall. If Miss Luo Dan has thought it through, send someone to inform me. But Miss Luo Dan, you still have to make a decision as soon as possible. Once the auction starts, it might be won by someone. Also, the leader of the Qing gang, Xia Feiyong, will be here today. I heard that he has some grudges with you." After speaking, the other party shook his head and walked out of the room. Luo Dan's face instantly turned ugly. The leader of the Qing gang was definitely in existence that gave her a headache. Moreover, they had some conflicts recently. If Xia Feiyong was here, then Luo Dan's chances of getting the treasure would be even smaller. However, Luo Dan had to get the treasure. You have some grudges with the Qin gang? Li Changsheng heard the conversation between the two. After Wei Jingyu left, he couldn't help but ask. A disciple of the Qin gang caused trouble in my bar, and in the end, one of his fingers was cut off by one of my men. Xia Feiyang found out about this, and he said that he would make me pay the price. The Qin gang is a super big gang with a few hundred years of history. They have many experts, and I can't afford to offend them. Luo Dan rubbed her temples and furrowed her brows. It was obvious that the news of Xia Feiyang's arrival had disrupted her plans. Hula! Suddenly, the door was violently pushed open and a middle-aged man barged in. This man's aura was very unusual. He was like a sharp sword that revealed its sharpness. Just by standing there, he gave people a very strong sense of oppression. His body wasn't considered sturdy, but his eyes were unusually sharp. After he appeared, Luo Dan's bodyguards also rushed in, but they kept a distance from him. Their eyes were filled with fear, and it was obvious that they all knew him. Luo Dan, our boss wants to see you. Please come with me. The other party's voice was cold and emotionless. His voice was very deep, and he didn't even look at Luo Dan's bodyguards. It was a kind of arrogance that came from the bottom of his heart. It was obvious that he didn't think that Luo Dan's well-trained bodyguards could pose any threat to him. Can your boss see me just because he wants to? But I don't want to see him, Luo Dan said coldly. Li Changsheng could clearly feel the fluctuation of true qi in her body. It was obvious that she was secretly accumulating strength. Her bodyguards were no longer able to protect her, and she was ready to do it herself. It seems that Miss Luo Dan doesn't want to give our boss face. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, and his eyes were filled with hostility. If I don't go, are you going to use force? Go back and tell your boss that although he is the leader of the Qin gang, I'm not afraid of him. It was your Qin gang's disciple who was in the wrong first. I'm already giving the Qin gang face by not digging a hole and burying him. If you want to give the Qin gang face, you shouldn't have attacked our Qin gang's disciple. Our Qin gang's disciples are in the wrong. Naturally, the Qin gang's rules will restrain them. It's not up to an outsider like you to interfere. Now, I'll count to 3. If you don't come with me obediently, then I'll offend you. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he began to count 1, 2. When he reached the second number, a figure stood up and stood between Luo Dan and the middle-aged man. This time, everyone in the room was surprised. They didn't expect Li Changsheng to dare to stand up at this time. If you want to take Luo Dan away, you'll have to go through me first. Li Changsheng looked at the man in front of him quietly. Luo Dan's true qi, which had been channeled to her palm, slowly dissipated back. Get lost! The middle-aged man was furious. He raised his hand and punched Li Changsheng's chest. This punch was so fast that it made a whistling sound. Li Changsheng didn't move, nor did he block it. He just let the fist hit his chest. Many people around had already exclaimed. Even Luo Dan couldn't help but turn her head to the side. This middle-aged man was one of the 4 great warriors of the Qin gang. He was the personal bodyguard of the Qin gang's leader, Xia Feiyang. However, what happened next caused many people to reveal looks of disbelief. The middle-aged man's fist hit Li Changsheng's chest, but Li Changsheng didn't move at all. On the contrary, the middle-aged man was forced to take a step back by the force of the impact. It turns out that you're a thwart kung fu expert. I misjudged you. The middle-aged man's eyes showed some seriousness. He knew the strength of his punch, but when he hit Li Changsheng's body, he didn't react at all. Therefore, the middle-aged man judged that Li Changsheng should have practiced a thwart kung fu like the Golden Bell Shield and Iron Shirt. Li Changsheng didn't refute the middle-aged man's words. He was the supreme thwart kung fu in the cultivation world. He had the indestructible body of gods and demons. The middle-aged man actually compared him with those mediocre kung fu in the secular world. However, although the middle-aged man's strength was good, he was only an expert in the secular world. How could he understand the power of the Tao through strength? Take this. The middle-aged man took a deep breath and rubbed his painful fist. Then, he attacked Li Changsheng again. This time, he didn't underestimate him at all. His punch was like a tiger coming out of the mountains. It carried a fierce aura. In the face of this aggressive punch, Li Changsheng just leaned to the side to avoid the attack. Then he grabbed the middle-aged man's wrist and slammed his knee into the middle-aged man's stomach. Bang! Li Changsheng let go of the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man immediately took 3 steps back. He held his stomach with one hand and showed a painful expression. At the same time, his eyes were full of fear. The first time he was pushed back by Li Changsheng, he thought that it was because he underestimated his opponent. But this time, he thoroughly experienced Li Changsheng's strength. "I'm not as good as you. Goodbye." The middle-aged man was also very upright. Seeing that he was not Li Changsheng's opponent, he immediately cupped his hands and admitted defeat. The middle-aged man turned and left the room. Li Changsheng didn't stop him. Instead, he sat down next to Luo Dan with a smile and said, "How was it? Did I do a good job as a flower protector?" Luo Dan didn't say anything. She just looked at Li Changsheng with a curious expression. Luo Dan knew the strength of the bodyguard of Xia Feiyong, the leader of the Green Gang. Yet, he was easily defeated by Li Changsheng. She couldn't see through this young man in front of her. Where did he come from? What is his purpose for approaching me? Does he really want to pursue me? How could it be so simple? For a moment, countless thoughts flashed through Luodan's mind. Chapter 494. That middle-aged man is the personal bodyguard of the Qin Gang's leader, Xia Feiyong. If you dare to attack him, aren't you afraid that Xia Feiyong will bring 180 men to kill you and cut you into pieces? Luo Dan said half-jokingly. She seemed to want to test Li Changsheng's strength. "It's just Xia Feiyong. If he sees me, he'll have to bow his head." Li Changsheng said casually. "TSK, you really know how to brag." After saying that, Luo Dan stood up. "The auction should be starting soon. We should go out." When they walked out of the room, they saw that the hall was already filled with people. Luo Dan randomly found a table and sat down. At this time, a well-dressed hostess walked up with a wooden box, followed by a middle-aged man who was in charge of hosting. The hall suddenly quieted down. The treasure being auctioned today is a rare treasure. I'm sure everyone already knows its characteristics. As she said that, a detailed introduction of the treasure appeared on the big LED screen behind her. It was a white pearl. According to the introduction in the video, this pearl could release cold air. Even on a hot summer day, if this pearl was placed in a room, it would become incomparably cool. This pearl is called the Frost Dragon Pearl. The dragon is one of the 9 sons of the dragon. As the video played, whispers immediately broke out in the hall. A dragon pearl, that's a divine item. This kind of treasure is priceless and can only be found by chance. They actually put it up for auction. Although many people already knew the origin of this pearl, more people came because of its reputation and did not know what it was that could release cold air. When they heard that it was a dragon pearl, they were all shocked. In China, the dragon was a totem and a divine item. One could imagine the commotion caused by a dragon pearl. "You're going to auction this thing?" Li Changsheng was far away, but he had already detected a lot of information about that pearl with his divine sense. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a treasure, but calling it a dragon pearl is a bit exaggerated. At most, it's like the inner core of a beast with the bloodline of a true dragon. A real dragon pearl is not that easy to obtain. He carefully sensed the true qi in Luo Dan's body. It should belong to the ice attribute. The cold air emitted by this bead is indeed very beneficial to her cultivation. No wonder she is so determined to get this thing. At this time, the auction had already begun. The starting price is 100 million. Following the host's words, the crowd went into an uproar. 100 million? That's not a small number. It's still unknown whether this is a Dragon Ball or not. What if it turns out to be a fake? That's right, Jiang Taigong is fishing. Those who are willing to take the bait. I heard that even the most authoritative treasure expert can't tell what it is. The so-called Dragon Ball is most likely made up by the auctioneer. So are we going to shoot or not? Just as many people were hesitating, someone had already raised their placard. 130 million. The person who raised the sign was actually Wei Jingyu, who was in the same room as Li Changsheng and the others. This Wei Jingyu is completely useless in bidding for this thing. Now that he's raising his paddle, it's clear that he's trying to drive up the price of the Dragon Balls. The manager beside Luo Dan said indignantly, "He wants us to beg him." Luo Dan said coldly. She didn't have a good impression of Wei Jingyu. This person was very scheming and always schemed against others. Sure enough, after Wei Jingyu raised his paddle, he looked at Luo Dan and waved at Luo Dan. Luo Dan clenched her fists and took a deep breath. She said to the manager, "As long as it's within 500 million, raise your paddle for me. I'll go over and have a look. I can't let him ruin things." With that, she stood up and walked over to Wei Jingyu. This time, Li Changsheng didn't follow her. The whole place was under his control. Naturally, he didn't worry about Luo Dan being in any danger. As for this auction item, since Luo Dan needs it, he will naturally sell it at the appropriate time. In his previous life, he owed her too much. In this life, whether Luo Dan was her reincarnation or not, he will compensate her as much as possible. As long as she likes it, it doesn't matter if he gives her the whole world. Not long after Luo Dan went over, the bidding price had already reached 400 million, which was very close to the range that Luo Dan could afford. As soon as she walked over, Luo Dan stared at Wei Jingyu angrily. "Wei Jingyu, what do you mean? Didn't you say 50 million? I'll give it to you. Why are you still raising your paddle?" Wei Jingyu laughed and said, "I changed my mind. Can't I?" "Luo Dan, you know that 50 million is nothing to me. What I want is your body. It's impossible between us. You should give up." Luo Dan said coldly. Hee, Luo Dan, although I don't know why you have to bid for this thing, all signs indicate that you must get this thing. It's very important to you. Then I'll give you a choice now. If you agree, I can let you successfully bid for this bead. If you don't agree, then I guarantee that you won't get it. Hearing Wei Jingyu's words, Luo Dan was angry. She sent a text message to the manager over there who raised his paddle for her. Soon, the manager raised his paddle. 200 million. Although this bead was advertised very well, most of the people present still didn't believe it. So when it reached 100 million, there were only a few people who wanted to bid. Now that Luo Dan raised her paddle, no one raised their paddle again. Luo Dan, according to my investigation of you, the total amount of cash you can take out is at most 500 million. I didn't expect this treasure to be so important to you. But since I said that you won't get it, I'll keep my word. Wei Jingyu chuckled coldly. Luo Dan had an ominous premonition in her heart. Sure enough, in the next moment, Wei Jingyu suddenly raised his paddle. 200 million. He directly raised the price by 100 million. The scene instantly fell into silence. Luo Dan's face was even redder. Because Luo Dan knew that she could use 500 million, the other party raised the price by 200 million. It was obvious that he wouldn't let her get it. Wei Jingyu, are you crazy? 200 million is not a small number for you. Luo Dan, it's indeed not a small number. But if I can get you, it's worth it. As long as you agree to marry me, I'll give you 5. I'll offer you 200 million beads. Wei Jingyu looked as if he had eaten Luo Dan 300 million. Luo Dan gritted her teeth and gestured to the manager again. The manager immediately raised his paddle. Wei Jingyu, if I liquidate all my assets, I can still take out 300 million. Your foundation is not in Qingzhou. I don't believe that you can add another 300 million in a short period of time. Wei Jingyu still had a confident look on his face. The situation was too big. 300 million. He directly raised the price by 400 million. This time, everyone was shocked. Even Luo Dan was in disbelief. Chapter 496. What kind of person was Xia Feiyang? He was the leader of the Qing gang. Across the entire north, he was a big shot. Now that he was in Qingzhou, he was like a dragon crossing the river. The Qing gang claimed to have 100,000 members, and Xia Feiyang himself was known for his ruthless methods. Back in the day, the Qing gang was on par with the Hong sect. Although the Qing gang had declined a lot, it was still one of the top forces. But now, the actual leader of the Qing gang, Xia Feiyang, not only did not care about Li Changsheng's offense, he even showed such a respectful attitude to Li Changsheng. It was unbelievable to everyone. Who is this young man? Everyone was stunned. Could he be a big shot from one of the top families in the capital? Many people were guessing. After all, Li Changsheng was too young. It seemed that only the future leader of those super families could make sense. Wei Jingyu, who originally had a complacent look on his face, had completely collapsed at this moment. He was trembling with fear. Luo Dan felt like she was in a dream. I'll give this bead to Mr. Li as an apology. I hope Mr. Li won't refuse. Xia Feiyang still had a respectful look on his face. The leader of the Qing gang had a prominent background in many people's eyes, but only Xia Feiyang knew that it was nothing in the eyes of cultivators, not to mention someone like Li Changsheng, who could be called the #1 in the cultivation world. Well, since you have the heart, I'll give you this chance. Li Changsheng said lightly, as if it was an honor for Xia Feiyang to buy the bead for him. Thank you, Mr. Li. Xia Feiyang's face was filled with joy. Boss Xia, we've already agreed to cooperate. You're obviously going back on your words. On the other side, Wei Jingyu was a little anxious. He originally planned to cooperate with Xia Feiyang to force Luo Dan to submit. He had been drooling over Luo Dan's beauty for a long time. Not to mention the wealth under Luo Dan's name was far more than $1 billion. If Luo Dan submitted herself to him, he would gain both wealth and beauty. Who would have thought that Li Changsheng would come out of nowhere and ruin all his plans? So what if we discussed it? If you dare to spout any more nonsense, do you believe that I'll make you suffer? Xia Feiyang was very respectful when facing Li Changsheng, but the moment he turned around, he immediately regained his aura as a martial arts tyrant. He glared fiercely at Wei Jingyu, who immediately shrunk back in fear, not daring to say the words that were at the tip of his tongue. Seeing this scene, the crowd fell into silence. This was the power of the leader of the Green Gang. Even if he didn't do anything, just a glare was enough to make people feel fear. And for someone as powerful as Xia Feiyang to bow his head to Li Changsheng, what kind of background did this seemingly ordinary young man have? Therefore, all eyes were focused on Li Changsheng. The two walked inside together and saw Luo Dan carefully put the dragon bead in the safe in the office and locked it. Then, she thought of something and looked at Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, you're giving me something worth $5 billion just like that. What's your purpose in approaching me? I can't figure it out no matter how I think about it. I told you my purpose from the beginning. It was for you. If I said that you look exactly like a lover of mine, would you believe it? I don't believe it. Luo Dan shook her head. How can there be such a coincidence in the world, and this is one? $5 billion. If I were your lover, you could spend $5 billion to show your true love, but I just look like you. I don't believe that someone could take out $5 billion just because someone looks like you. Hearing Luo Dan's words, Li Changsheng shrugged his shoulders. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. Then can I ask you a question? Do you have a birthmark similar to a wound on your lower abdomen? When Li Changsheng's words fell, Luo Dan's face suddenly changed wildly. How do you know? Chapter 497. How did you know that? Luo Dan's expression changed drastically as she stared at Li Changsheng in disbelief. Seeing Luo Dan's expression, Li Changsheng was even more shocked. He only asked because he had some guesses. It seemed that he had guessed correctly. Can I have a look? Li Changsheng stared at Luo Dan, his eyes filled with excitement. Even his voice began to tremble. Luo Dan's face immediately turned red with anger. Who do you think I am? Li Changsheng finally realized that his words were inappropriate. How could a girl's body be casually looked at? The atmosphere in the room became awkward. At this moment, the door suddenly opened and an old man strode in. The old man was dressed in black and had a gloomy aura around him. Cultivator. Li Changsheng suddenly raised his head. Judging from the old man's aura, he should have reached the Khanate realm. I didn't expect you to come personally. After seeing the old man, Luo Dan immediately showed a respectful expression. I heard that you obtained the cold drake pearl. Well done. The old man smiled, and his tone was filled with praise. The pearl is in the safe. Luo Dan hurriedly opened the safe and took out the wooden box containing the pearl. The old man took it with a smile and opened the wooden box. Seeing the white pearl inside, he smiled. Good. Well done. I'll record this as a great merit. After saying that, he noticed Li Changsheng sitting on the sofa. He couldn't help but frown and ask, "Who is he?" "This is Mr. Li. It was all thanks to Mr. Li that we were able to obtain the pearl." "Is that so?" The old man nodded. "You didn't tell outsiders anything you shouldn't have, right?" At this moment, Luo Dan's face was filled with fear. "I wouldn't dare to reveal the sect's secrets." "That's good." The old man looked at Li Changsheng. "Friend, I'm very grateful to you for helping Luo Dan obtain the Cold Serpent Pearl. However, I have some matters to discuss with Luo Dan. It's not convenient for you to sit here. Please leave first." The other party's voice was cold. Li Changxing couldn't help but frown slightly, but he didn't say anything. He nodded and said to Luo Dan, "Then I'll leave first. I'll come find you tomorrow." With that, he turned around and walked out of the office. After Li Changsheng left, the old man sized up the cold serpent bead a few more times before smiling. "It is indeed a treasure. Congratulations on passing the inner sect assessment. When I return, I will report this matter to the palace master, and you will be officially promoted to an inner sect disciple." As he spoke, he put the bead away. "I've already arranged for someone to take over your business in the Azure province. Now, come back to the sect with me. This cold serpent pearl is such a treasure that I'm afraid others will covet it. This time, I'm also afraid that you won't be able to protect this treasure." "All right." Luo Dan nodded, but Li Changxing's figure suddenly appeared in her mind. She was originally an outer sect disciple of the Snow God's palace. She had always wanted to become an inner sect disciple, but there were only two ways to become an inner sect disciple. The first way was to cultivate the Snow God's technique and break through to the 7th level of the Qi refining realm. Luo Dan was limited by her aptitude and was now stuck at the 5th level of the Qi refining realm. The second way was to make a great contribution to the sect and be promoted. Therefore, Luo Dan took the initiative to come to the Azure province to develop her business, hoping to find a treasure for her sect. A few days ago, she heard about the Cold Serpent Pearl and knew that her opportunity to be promoted to an inner sect disciple had come. That was why she was so passionate about the Cold Serpent Pearl. After being promoted to an inner sect disciple of the Snow God's palace, her identity would change dramatically from now on. She might not come to the Azure province in this lifetime. She didn't know how she felt about Li Changsheng. After all, the two of them had known each other for less than 2 days. "I'll regret it forever." Luo Dan sighed. She followed the elder down the stairs and out of the bar. She got into an off-road vehicle and quickly disappeared at the end of the street. After the car disappeared, Li Changxing walked out from behind a building. With his divine sense, the conversation between the two could not escape his ears. "She left us like that? Looks like I'll have to go to your sect next time." Just as Li Changsheng was mumbling to himself, his eyebrows suddenly raised. Looks like it won't be that easy for her to leave just like that. The Jeep had already left the Azure province and was speeding on a nameless road. Luo Dan sat in the back of the car with her eyes closed. Suddenly, the car came to a sudden stop and caused her body to tilt forward. She quickly straightened her body. If she hadn't practiced Dharma spells, her face would have been bruised and swollen. "What's going on?" Elder Lu, who was also resting with his eyes closed, couldn't help but show some anger on his face. Looking up, he saw 3 neat rows of cars on the road ahead, blocking the road ahead. Someone is here to rob the treasure. Elder Lu instantly understood what was going on and shouted at the driver, "Turn around." However, as soon as he finished speaking, he heard the sound of tires rubbing against each other from behind. He turned around and saw 3 rows of cars blocking the road. They had been surrounded. Let's get out of the car and have a look. Elder Lu knew that the other party had come prepared, but he was also a Khanate realm expert and was very confident in his own strength. When they opened the door and got out, the people who surrounded them also got out of the cars. The leader was a middle-aged man in a black robe and holding a folding fan in his hand. He cupped his hands and said from afar, "Elder Lu, we meet again." When he saw the other party's face, Elder Li's face suddenly changed. "I didn't expect to alarm Vice Sect Leader Zhu. I wonder what Vice Sect Leader Zhu is going to do." "Huh." The middle-aged man smiled faintly. "Elder Lu, let's not beat around the bush. I heard that a disciple of your Snow God Palace found a treasure called the Frost Dragon Pearl for you. As you know, our Een Lake sect also cultivates the Frost Element cultivation method. It just so happens that I've encountered some difficulties in my cultivation method recently, so I'd like to borrow your Frost Dragon Pearl. I'm sure your Snow God Palace won't refuse me, since we're both cultivation sects of the northern region." Elder Lu's face changed when he heard the other party's words. When he was surrounded, he vaguely guessed that the other party must have gotten the news about the Frost Dragon Pearl. However, when he heard the other party's words, the last bit of hope in his heart disappeared. "Zhu Xingyu, I'm afraid I can't promise you this. Our Snow God's Palace is also very useful for this pearl. If you don't want to cause a fight between our two sects, you'd better let us go, and I'll pretend that nothing happened." "Ha!" Zhu Xingyu shook his head. "Elder Lu, do you think it's possible? Since I'm here, I naturally don't take your Snow God's Palace seriously. I hope you can make the right choice. Otherwise, you and your beautiful disciple won't be able to leave here today." Chapter 498. Hearing the other party's words, Elder Lu's expression changed several times. Finally, he let out a long sigh and took out the wooden box from the car. "I was careless. I didn't expect the news to leak so quickly." He threw the wooden box into the hands of Zhu Xingyu, the vice sect master of the Een Lake sect, and then said, "I'll give it to you. Let the two of us go." Luo Dan's eyes were full of despair. She had worked so hard to get this Dragon Ball. Now that it was taken away by the other party, her promotion to an inner disciple was most likely going to be ruined. But what could she do? Even Elder Lu had to accept his fate, let alone a small outer disciple like her. After checking the wooden box and confirming that it was correct, Zhu Xingyu laughed out loud. "I didn't expect to get it so easily." As he spoke, he put away the wooden box, and then his face became cold. "Now that you've got it, the two of you should be on your way." Hearing Zhu Xingyu's words, Elder Lu's expression suddenly changed. "Zhu, what do you mean? I've already given you what you want, and you still don't plan to let the two of us go? Do you really want to start a war with the Snow God's Temple?" "I don't want to start a war with the Snow God's Temple, so I want to kill you. As long as the two of you are dead, who knows who did it? After all, this Dragon Ball is a treasure that everyone wants to get." Hearing the other party's words, Elder Lu trembled with anger, and Luo Dan's eyes were full of despair. "Am I going to die here today? Not only did you steal the Dragon Ball, but you also want to kill people. Isn't that a bit too much?" At this moment, a faint voice rang out. Under the road, a young figure appeared. "Who are you?" Everyone's eyes were attracted to him. At this critical moment, Zhu Xingyu certainly didn't want anyone to disturb him. But when he saw that it was only a young man, Zhu Xingyu breathed a sigh of relief. "Li Changsheng, why are you here?" After seeing Li Changsheng, Luo Dan's face suddenly showed anxiety. Now that the other party had made it clear that he wanted to kill them, Li Changsheng appeared at this time. Wasn't he courting death? "Li Changsheng, hurry up and leave. This is not a place for you to stay." Luo Dan kept winking at Li Changsheng, but Li Changsheng acted as if he didn't see it and walked directly to her side. "Are you stupid? These people want to silence you. Aren't you courting death by appearing at this time? Hurry up and pretend you didn't see anything and leave." Luo Dan was so anxious that she was sweating profusely. She knew that she was going to die today, and she didn't want to implicate Li Changsheng. "If I leave, who will save you?" Li Changsheng smiled. "Li Changsheng, I know that your background is not ordinary. Otherwise, Xia Feiyang would not respect you so much. But these people are different from Xia Feiyang. Don't be stupid. Quickly think of a way to leave. You can't save me. Li Changsheng completely ignored Luo Dan's words. Instead, he calmly looked at Zhu Xingyu, the vice chief of the Yin Pool faction, and extended his hand. I spent 1.5 billion to buy that bead for Luo Dan. Please return it to me. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, everyone present was stunned. Zhu Xingyu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Kid, are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? You want something from me? The subordinates behind Zhu Xingyu roared with laughter. I'm Li Changsheng. Of course I want my things back. If you don't give it to me, then I'll take it by force. But if I do, you'll regret it. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the laughter became louder. Zhu Xingyu shook his head. Li Changsheng? Ha! I've never heard of you. Aren't you going to take it by force? Then come and take it. Ha! However, before he could finish speaking, Li Changsheng began to walk toward him. Luo Dan wanted to step forward to stop him, but was stopped by Elder Lu. Don't go over. Let him lure Zhu Xingyu to attack. Let me see how strong Zhu Xingyu is and whether we have a chance to escape. But he'll be killed by Zhu Xingyu. Luo Dan wanted to break free from Elder Lu's grasp, but her cultivation was too low. She couldn't break free even with all her strength. So what if you go up? You'll just die with him. I'm only willing to save you because you're loyal to the Snow God's palace. Otherwise, do you think I want to care about you? Elder Lu said coldly. At this time, Li Changsheng had already taken 3 steps forward. The first 2 steps were ordinary, but when he took the 3rd step, a cool breeze rose under his feet. As he took another step, the cool breeze swept up the dust on the ground. When he took the 8th step, the cool breeze had turned into a whistling wind, bringing up more and more dust. At this time, the laughter in the field had long disappeared and was replaced by dignified faces. At this time, even a fool could see that Li Changsheng was not an ordinary person. Who the hell are you? Zhu Xingyu clenched the folding fan in his hand and stared at Li Changsheng. Behind him, Elder Lu and Luo Dan were both surprised. I didn't expect him to be a cultivator. Elder Lu muttered to himself. Does that mean we're saved? Luo Dan's face was full of surprise. I advise you not to be too optimistic. Even if he's a cultivator, it's already very good that he can cultivate to the 8th level of qi refining at his age. Zhu Xingyu, the deputy leader of the Yin Lake sect, is at the peak of the innate realm. Do you think he can save us? Hearing Elder Lu's words, the hope that had just been ignited in Luo Dan was extinguished in an instant, as if a basin of cold water had been poured on it. The joy in her eyes turned into deep worry for Li Changsheng. Boy, which sect are you from? I didn't expect that I was wrong. At first, Zhu Xingyu was also shocked by Li Changsheng's momentum, but on second thought, even if Li Changsheng was a cultivator, so what? Could he be stronger than him? I'm not from any sect. As I said, my name is Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng, do you think your name is very famous? Zhu Xingyu snorted coldly. Just now, when he was talking to Li Changsheng, he was just preparing to attack. Now that he was ready, he immediately opened the folding fan in his hand, and it flew out of his hand. With a wind-breaking sound in the air, it attacked Li Changsheng. In the next second, Li Changsheng's 9th step had already landed. The boundless wind formed a tornado at the end of his step and directly met the folding fan. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. The folding fan was directly crushed in the tornado. At the same time, Li Changsheng waved his palm forward, and the endless wind hit Zhu Xingyu's chest along with the palm force. At this moment, the crowd behind Zhu Xingyu exclaimed, Li Changsheng, I remember now. He's the newly risen leader of the Sword Alliance. However, his voice was a step too late. By the time he finished speaking, Zhu Xingyu had already been sent flying backward. Chapter 499. He's Li Changsheng, the most powerful man in the world. Zhu Xingyu's subordinates behind him almost cried out in surprise, but they were too late. Zhu Xingyu had been sent flying by Li Changsheng, the most powerful man in the world. Elder Lu and Luo Dan were both confused. The Snow God's palace was built on a remote snow mountain and had little contact with the cultivation world of the central region. Therefore, Even though Li Changsheng was famous in the cultivation world, they still didn't know who Li Changsheng was. Not to mention them, even Zhu Xingyu, who was sent flying by Li Changsheng, had a puzzled look in his eyes. Like the snow god's palace, the Yin Lake sect cultivated in seclusion and didn't know much about the changes in the cultivation world. Zhu Xingyu got up from the ground with his hand on his chest. Every time he moved, he showed a painful expression on his face. Obviously, the palm had hurt him badly. He looked at Li Changsheng with fear. Now, he didn't dare to treat Li Changsheng as a reckless young man. What's going on? Zhu Xingyu looked at his subordinate who had just cried out in surprise. The subordinate whispered a few words in Zhu Xingyu's ear. Suddenly, Zhu Xingyu's face changed again and again. He said in surprise, "Is he really so powerful?" The subordinate nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Absolutely. Like Luo Dan, this subordinate was only an outer disciple of the Yin Lake sect. He was responsible for the affairs of the Yin Lake sect in the secular world. He happened to be in the capital city a few days ago, so he knew more about Li Changsheng. Seeing Zhu Xingyu sent flying, the subordinates behind him all stared at Li Changsheng. However, they didn't dare to act rashly because they were afraid of Li Changsheng's strength. At this time, Zhu Xingyu waved his hand, motioning his subordinates to stop. Then, he endured the pain in his body and struggled to take a few steps forward. He cupped his hands and said to Li Changsheng, "Mr. Li, forgive me for offending you. Please forgive me." Zhu Xingyu's change in attitude surprised Luo Dan and Elder Lu again. "Tell me the truth. What is the identity of this Li guy?" Elder Liu knew that Zhu Xingyu was the deputy headmaster of the Yin Lake sect. Just now, he had been sent flying by Li Changsheng with a single palm strike. Now, after standing up, there was no anger on his face. Instead, there was a look of fear on his face. This was simply too unusual. My heart is also filled with question marks. Originally, no matter how mysterious Li Changsheng's identity was, in her eyes, he was just a rich second generation from a big family in the secular world. She never thought that Li Changsheng was also a cultivator and was so powerful. "Since you know you have offended me, why don't you hand over the bead and then break one of your hands and get out of here?" Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Zhu Xingyu's face immediately showed signs of struggle. Losing a hand meant that his strength would be greatly reduced. To a martial artist, this was something unacceptable. "Mr. Li, I'm willing to give you gold and silver as an apology. Please be magnanimous and forgive me this time." Hearing Zhu Xingyu's words, Li Changsheng coldly snorted. "If I don't let you break your hand, then break it. If you dare to say another word, do you believe that I won't take your life?" Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Zhu Xingyu's face showed anger. He was the deputy headmaster of the Yin Lake sect. Why had he ever been reprimanded like this? However, when he raised his head and saw Li Changsheng's cold eyes and recalled Li Changsheng's means just now, he instantly felt a chill in his heart and hurriedly lowered his head again. "Fine, I'll break one of my hands to thank Li Changsheng for not killing me." After saying that, he took a knife from a subordinate next to him and chopped his own wrist. Kacha! With a raise of his hand, the knife fell and his hand was directly cut off. "Mr. Li, are you satisfied now?" Zhu Xingyu was also a tough guy. His hand was chopped off, but he gritted his teeth and didn't groan. "Get out of here." Li Changsheng didn't look at him again and said coldly, "Thank you, Mr. Li." Zhu Xingyu hurriedly picked up his chopped hand and limped into the car. Soon, more than 20 cars disappeared at the end of the road. After Zhu Xingyu left, Li Changsheng's eyes fell on Elder Lu. At this moment, Elder Lu was still holding Luo Dan's wrist. Luo Dan wanted to help Li Changsheng just now, but he grabbed her wrist. Later, when Li Changsheng sent Zhu Xingyu flying with a palm, he was completely shocked and forgot to let go of her wrist. When he met Li Changsheng's cold eyes, he quickly reacted. He hurriedly let go of her hand. "Luo Dan wanted to save me just now, but you tried to stop her. Since you're an elder of Luo Dan's sect, I'll cut off one of your fingers." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Elder Lu raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "I'm an elder of the Snow God Palace. You want to cut off my finger? Didn't you see that the deputy headmaster's hand was chopped off? Who do you think you are?" Before the other party could speak, A cold light was emitted from Li Changxing's body and slashed at Elder Lu. Just as he was about to dodge, the sword light flashed in front of him, and his finger fell. Ah! Elder Lu reacted and let out a scream. Obviously, he was not as persevering as Zhu Xingyu. Boy, you're making an enemy of the Snow God Palace. Elder Lu gritted his teeth as he endured the pain. Shut up. Li Changxing snorted and waved his hand. Slap. There was a crisp sound. Elder Lu was sent flying out of the room. Luo Dan looked at all of this in a daze and stood there, not knowing what to do. At this time, Li Changxing walked in front of her and handed her the wooden box. This is my gift to you. Remember, no one can take it. After handing the box to Luo Dan, he took out a red string from his pocket, held Luo Dan's jade-like hand, and gently tied it around her wrist. Don't take off this red string. It will protect you. Okay, I'll visit you in a few days. Li Changxing held her hand tightly, then turned around and walked step by step in the direction he came from. Every step he took covered a distance of more than 10 meters and soon disappeared from Luo Dan's sight. At this time, Elder Lu got up from the ground with a gloomy face. The side of his face was badly mutilated, and at the same time, the place where his finger was cut off had stopped bleeding. With the means of the innate realm, reattaching a severed finger was not a difficult task. However, having one of his fingers severed would affect the circulation of his meridians in the future, and his strength would decrease. Moreover, this was an absolute humiliation. If news of this were spread, he would become a laughingstock. This is the friend you know. I won't let him go. Also, when I return to the sect, I will report today's matter to the palace master. Then you will be punished. Chapter 500. Elder Lu thought that Li Changxing had left, so he dared to threaten Luo Dan loudly. However, he did not know that his conversation with Luo Dan had fallen into Li Changxing's ears. A cold glint flashed across Li Changxing's eyes as he walked, but he didn't punish Elder Lu when he returned. The other party was an elder of Luo Dan's sect. Obviously, Luo Dan valued her sect very much. The reason why he tied the red rope around Luo Dan's wrist was to prevent her sect's elders from making things difficult for Luo Dan. After living for countless lifetimes, how could Li Changxing not know that those cultivation sects were sanctimonious on the surface, but dirty behind their backs? If they really dared to make Luo Dan suffer, Li Changxing did not mind razing their entire sect to the ground. In that life, it was because of his soft-heartedness that the figure finally died in front of him. In this life, such a thing would not happen again. Soon, Li Changxing returned to his villa. He saw a row of luxurious cars parked at the entrance of the villa. A young man stood at the entrance of the villa, waiting. Li Changxing's villa was shrouded in a formation, so not just anyone could break in. The young man obviously had no intention of breaking in. Instead, he waited there respectfully. When Li Changxing's figure appeared, the young man's face immediately lit up with joy. Mr. Li, you're back. The young man was none other than Qi Xian. Seeing Qi Xian's appearance, Li Changxing's eyes revealed some doubts. Qi Xian, what's going on? When Qi Xian saw Li Changxing, he immediately greeted him. Mr. Li, I'm here on my father's orders to deliver something to you. Because this thing is very precious, my father asked me to bring the members of the swordsman group here. Li Changxing looked over and saw more than 40 people standing behind Qi Xian. It should be known that Qi Yu did not send such a large lineup the last time he went to the capital. For a moment, Li Changxing was even more curious about what Qi Yu was talking about. Let's talk inside. With that, Li Changxing waved his hand and removed the protective array formation enveloping the villa. Then, he walked into the villa with Qi Xian. His subordinates were standing neatly in the courtyard. Not to mention that they didn't have the right to enter the villa with Qi Xian. Even if Li Changxing let them in, the house couldn't hold so many people. Walking into the villa, Li Changxing sat down on the sofa. At this time, Qi Xian carefully opened a wooden box. Inside was a palm-sized gourd. The material of this gourd seemed to be very special. It was like jade, crystal clear, and dark green. The moment Qi Xian opened the wooden box, Li Changxing's face revealed surprise. This is a magical treasure. Li Changsheng also looked a little excited. One had to know that the most powerful Dharma artifact he had now was the heart-wishful sword that he had obtained from the sect leader of the Huashan sect. Although the heart-wishful sword was powerful, it was only a supreme-grade Dharma artifact. However, this Jasper gourd was very likely a Dharma artifact. According to the power of Dharma artifacts, they were divided into several grades. They were Dharma artifact, spiritual artifact, Dharma artifact, spiritual artifact, Tao artifact that could destroy the world, and the highest grade supreme grade Dharma artifact. Seeing Li Changsheng's expression, Qi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that this is really a Dharma artifact. My father paid a huge price to obtain it. What exactly is going on? Li Changsheng wasn't in a hurry to check the level of this gourd. Instead, he looked at Qi Xian in confusion. Hearing Qi Xian's words, it probably wasn't easy to obtain this item. This could also explain why you would send more than 40 elite subordinates to escort this treasure to Qingzhou with Qi Xian. This was originally a family heirloom. Later on, that family was suddenly exterminated. Coincidentally, my father had some friendship with the family head, so he sent people to investigate this matter. Later on, he found out that the family was exterminated because a mysterious organization was eyeing their family heirloom. Hence, in order to avenge his good friend, my father mobilized all his elite subordinates and finally recovered this Jasper gourd that the mysterious organization had snatched away. It's a pity that the headquarters of that mysterious organization wasn't in the country. Hence, they could only exterminate those who came to snatch the treasure. They couldn't kill their way to their headquarters. Speaking of this, Qi Xian felt a little regretful. My father made many inquiries and determined that this gourd was very likely a Dharma artifact used by cultivators. Hence, he asked me to send someone to deliver it to you overnight. So that's how it is. Li Changsheng nodded and picked up the Jasper gourd to examine it carefully. This is indeed a Dharma artifact of the Dharma artifact level, and it's a rare spatial Dharma artifact. It's a pity that it's damaged. If it wasn't damaged, it's very likely that its level would be higher. The space inside is damaged and temporarily unusable. It seems that it needs to be repaired. Upon hearing Li Changsheng's words, Qi Xian couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Does this mean that the treasure that my father valued so much is actually a piece of trash? No. Li Changsheng waved his hand. How could it be a piece of trash? Although this Dharma artifact is damaged, as long as it's repaired, it'll definitely be a treasure. I have to thank your father for this matter. My father said that it's only right for him to be filial to you. All right. Li Changsheng nodded and put away the Jasper gourd without hesitation. Since this treasure belongs to your father's friend, and your father's friend's entire family was wiped out, now that it's in my hands, I have the obligation to avenge him. Help me tell Qi Yu to find out the origin of that mysterious force. Leave the rest to me. All right. Qi Xian nodded. On the third day after Qi Xian came to Qingzhou, Ma Yi called and said that he wanted to treat Li Changsheng to a meal to apologize for what happened at the gathering last time. Li Changsheng didn't refuse. After asking for the address, he asked Qi Xian to drive him there. Initially, Qi Xian was about to leave after delivering the Jasper gourd, but Qi Yu told him to stay by Li Changsheng's side for a while and learn something from Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng didn't refuse. After all, he was the son of an old friend. Moreover, Qi Xian had been by Li Changsheng's side in the capital some time ago. Even if he didn't make any contributions, he still worked hard. Li Changsheng happened to be preparing to refine a cauldron of pills recently and helped Qi Xian improve his physique at the same time. Although Qi Xian wasn't talented in cultivation, he still had good aptitude in martial arts. Human martial arts could also be cultivated through martial arts, but it was 100 times more difficult than directly cultivating Tao techniques. Li Changsheng helped him lay a good foundation. How far he could go would depend on his luck. Chapter 501. Mr. Li, it's a great honor to be able to follow you. My father said that he was your lackey back then and built the Qi family's powerful empire. As his son, I can be at your beck and call. This is Mr. Li's grace to the Qi family. Qi Xian said emotionally as he drove. When he went back this time, Qiyu told him many stories of following Li Changsheng back then, making him understand that the Qi family's glory today was a gift from Li Changsheng. Everyone has their own luck. The Qi family's success today is also the result of your father's hard work. Li Changsheng smiled and began to close his eyes to rest. Not long after he closed his eyes, he heard a bang and the car shook violently. When he opened his eyes, he saw a Wrangler and Qi Xian's Mercedes-Benz colliding. F***CK. Does this person know how to drive? He suddenly rushed out of the alley. Didn't the examiner tell him to go straight when he took the driver's license test? Qi Xian was also shocked by the car that suddenly rushed out and complained unhappily. What's going on? Li Changsheng frowned. He had an appointment to meet in half an hour. Now that there was a car collision, he was afraid that it would be delayed. I was driving well just now. Who knew that a car suddenly rushed out of the alley and directly hit our bumper? Let's go and see. If it's not serious, don't get entangled with them. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Qi Xian nodded. Just as he was about to get out of the car, 3 men came out of the opposite car and kicked the front bumper of the car. They pointed at the window and scolded. F***CK. Do you have F***king eyes? Don't you know how to move aside? Do you think you're so great just because you drive a broken Mercedes-Benz? Do you believe that I'll smash you into a pile of scrap iron? This time, even Qi Xian was a little stunned. He was the son of the sick tiger Qiyu, the top young master in the north. He was actually scolded by someone who was in the right. Friend, it was your car that rushed out from the side. Why are you scolding people first? Qi Xian was not in a hurry to get out of the car. Instead, he rolled down the window and asked with a frown. Because of Li Changsheng's presence, he wouldn't argue with the other party over such a small matter. F***CK, you still dare to talk back. Get the F***CK out of the car, or I'll smash your car. The young man kicked the car again. Behind the young man, the 2 men looked at Qi Xian with a sneer. Please clean your mouth. Qi Xian wasn't a good-tempered person to begin with. It was only because Li Changsheng was around that he was afraid of delaying Li Changsheng's matters that he couldn't be bothered to argue with the other party. However, the other party was now pushing his luck, which made him a little angry. Oh, you're even excited now? Brat, why don't you go and find out who I, mate, Junshu am? Li Changsheng could tell that Qi Xian was holding back because of him. So he said, don't have any scruples. Just do what you need to do. After that, Li Changsheng opened the door and got out of the car. Qi Xian hurriedly opened the door and got out as well. The youth named Mei Junshu was cursing at the car when he suddenly saw the door open. He paused and then sneered. What? Are you getting out of the car to apologize to me? Are you scared? Scared your ass. Qi Xian roared as soon as the other party finished speaking. He grabbed the other party's hair with unusual ferocity and pulled it down. Then, he raised his knee and hit the other party. Ka. After hitting the other party's head 3 times, he released his hand and the other party fell to the ground. His face was full of blood and his nose must have been broken. The 2 companions of the youth were dumbfounded. They didn't expect Qi Xian to take the initiative to attack. After they came to their senses, they didn't have the courage to rush up. Qi Xian's actions were too ruthless and too direct. He had already completely intimidated them. Do you know who young Master Mei is? He's the young master of Yuanhua Logistics Company. You even dare to touch a tiger's butt. You're finished. A youth pointed at Qi Xian and Li Changsheng and said loudly. At the same time, he took out his phone and started to make calls. Obviously, he was looking for someone. If they couldn't win, they would call for help. This had always been the usual trick of these rich playboys. The other had already gone to help Mei Junshu. Mei Junshu's nose was completely caved in and blood was all over his face. He was a little dizzy from being hit by Qi Xian's knee and only woke up a few minutes later. But his gaze toward Qi Xian was full of hatred and fear. It's okay. We've already called. Someone will be here soon. After the call, the youth said to Mei Junshu and looked at Li Changsheng and Qi Xian. You 2 dared to hit young Master Mei. Now kneel down and kowtow to apologize. Otherwise, when our people arrive, it will be too late for you to kneel down and kowtow. Is that so? Li Changsheng walked to the side of the road and lit a cigarette. "I like to see how much power you can use." Qi Xian walked to Li Changsheng's side and asked, "Mr. Li, why don't I take care of these three guys? You go and meet your friends first. These clowns shouldn't delay your time." "It's okay. I'll be late anyway. Might as well watch a good show." Li Changsheng smiled. Not long after, they saw a few commercial cars driving over quickly. A middle-aged man got out of the car and led a group of hot-blooded youths in their 20s. They walked over fiercely. "Young Master Mei, what's going on?" "President Mei is dealing with some things and asked me to come over first. It's like this. They hit my car and dare to hit me." The youth next to him briefly explained the situation. This time, Li Changsheng and Qi Xian were surrounded by a group of fierce-looking youths. The middle-aged man nodded and looked at Li Changsheng and Qi Xian. Li Changsheng had just finished smoking a cigarette and walked over with Qi Xian. "You hit my young master's car and hit him. Let's talk about compensation." "Compensation?" Before Li Changsheng and Qi Xian could speak, Mei Junshu was a little anxious. "Uncle Chun, you can't let them off easily." "I understand, young Master Mei." The middle-aged man gave Mei Junshu a reassuring look. Mei Junshu suddenly seemed to understand something, and a sneer appeared on his face. "How are you going to compensate?" Li Changsheng asked with a playful expression. 500,000 for hitting my car. 5 million for hitting my young master. 5,500,000. You can leave safely today. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." The other party looked at Li Changsheng and Qi Xian coldly with a sneer in his eyes. Chapter 502. How can 5 million be enough? In my opinion, it should be at least 50 million. Li Changsheng said with a smile. The man was stunned. "What do you mean?" In his opinion, 5 million was already an exorbitant price, but the other party actually wanted to pay 50 million. Could it be that the other party was stupid? "I'm afraid that this car is only about 400,000 to 500,000. Plus the modification, 3 million is enough. Plus your young master, it's 50 million in total. I'll give you a round number." After Li Changsheng finished, he motioned to Qi Xian next to him. Qi Xian immediately understood. He directly opened the door, sat in the car, started the engine, back 5 or 6 meters, and stepped on the accelerator. Vroom! With the roar of the engine, smoke rose from the rear of the car, and the smell of burnt tires. The car suddenly hit the Wrangler in front. Bang! The Wrangler was suddenly shaken by the collision, while Qi Xian and the Mercedes-Benz continued to step on the accelerator and push forward for more than 10 meters before stopping. The rich second generation and the middle-aged man who came to rescue were all dumbfounded. "Good, you have guts." The middle-aged man was indeed a veteran. After a short surprise, he immediately chuckled, but the coldness in his eyes could not be concealed. "If you have guts, continue to hit it." The middle-aged man finished his words. Without Li Changsheng's order, Qi Xian stepped on the accelerator again and drove the Wrangler to the roadside. He repeatedly hit it more than a dozen times and smashed the off-road vehicle into pieces. Then he stopped. Of course, Qi Xian's Mercedes-Benz was not much better. "Boy, is this all you can do?" "That's it." The middle-aged man sneered. In his opinion, he had already figured out the confidence of these two young men. They thought that they could scare him by hitting a Wrangler. They didn't even think about the fact that this Wrangler was only the cheapest among his young master's countless cars. "Of course not. I just said that I would pay 50 million. This car is worth at most 3 million. The remaining 47 million is your young master's life." Before they could react, Qi Xian had already turned the smoking Mercedes-Benz in front of them. He suddenly accelerated and rushed towards Mei Junshu and his two rich second-generation friends. It was only a distance of a few dozen meters, and he rushed over almost instantly. Mei Junshu was so scared that he screamed. He rolled and crawled to the side. The two rich second generation also reacted fast enough to dodge in time. Bang! They had just run away when they heard a loud roar, and the car hit the railing on the road. Many onlookers had already gathered around, causing a traffic jam nearby. "He really wants to kill me?" Mei Junshu, whose nose had already stopped bleeding, said with a trembling voice. The other two rich second-generation heirs also had lingering fears. If they hadn't reacted fast enough, they would have been seriously injured even if they didn't die. As for the middle-aged man's subordinates, their faces were also filled with astonishment. They felt that they had encountered a madman. There were many onlookers around, but at first they just thought that it was an ordinary traffic accident. They didn't think of taking the initiative to call the police, so the whole street was blocked and no traffic police came. Qi Xian drove the car to hit the railing, but didn't hit anyone. He backed up again and turned the steering wheel to Mei Junshu and his friends. At this time, no one dared to doubt Qi Xian's courage. Mei Junshu and his friends were so scared that they hurriedly fled to the stairs more than a meter above the ground. Only then did they pat their chests with lingering fear. The middle-aged man, who had been calm just now, was no longer as calm as before. Madmen couldn't be reasoned with. In his opinion, the two young men in front of him were such madmen. However, to their surprise, Qi Xian didn't start the car again to take revenge. Instead, he opened the car door and got out. He shrugged and said, "It's just a little joke and you're so scared. You're really a disgrace to the rich second generation." With that, he walked to the middle-aged man and said with a playful expression, "What? You want to play with me? But don't you think your subordinates are a little insufficient?" The middle-aged man also calmed down at this moment. He regained some composure on his face and snorted, "Not enough? It's enough to deal with the two of you." Qi Xian smiled slightly. "It's too early for you to say that." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a commotion in the crowded crowd. Then, a group of burly men in black quickly walked out of the crowd, each of them looking murderous. The middle-aged man wanted to say something, but at this time, Qi Xian had already lifted his foot and kicked him in the stomach, kicking him to the ground. His subordinates behind him were about to rush up, but they were all beaten to the ground by Qi Xian's subordinates. In less than a minute, the situation had been fundamentally reversed. Mei Junshu and his two friends, who were hiding on the high platform, were about to sneak away quietly when Qi Xian waved his hand. A dagger shot out and directly pierced into the crack in the brick in front of Mei Junshu. The blade swayed gently, flashing a cold light in the sun. It was only a few centimeters away from Mei Junshu's body. Mei Junshu was so scared that he took 3 steps back. He swallowed hard, and there was already some panic in his eyes. "Bring him to me," Qi Xian ordered coldly. Immediately, several subordinates escorted Mei Junshu and his two friends to Qi Xian. "My father is Mei Rihua, the boss of Yuanhua Logistics." Mei Junshu stammered. Hearing the other party's identity, Qi Xian went to Li Changsheng and whispered, "I know this Mei Rihua." Yuanhua Logistics is backed by Yuanhua Group, which is quite powerful in the north. Qingzhou is just where their branch is located. Hearing Qi Xian's words, Li Changsheng nodded. With Qi Xian's identity, this Yuanhua Logistics company could be known by him, which showed that his strength was not ordinary. Will dealing with him affect the interests of your Qi family in the north? If so, let him go, Li Changsheng asked. Although Qi Xian and Su Xiaolin were each other's horns and dominated the north, there were still many big and small forces and many complicated relationships. They could not do whatever they wanted. It won't affect the interests of my Qi family. Besides, if he offends you, no matter how powerful the enemy is, my Qi family will still pull him down. Okay, I understand. You can continue to deal with him. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, Qi Xian directly went over and kicked Mei Junshu to the ground. Then he stepped on his face and said coldly, "Boy, I don't care whose son you are. Remember, don't be too arrogant. Today is just a warning. Next time, I may take your life." After that, Qi Xian lifted his foot and said coldly, "Get out." Mei Junshu's face was full of humiliation. He rolled and crawled into a business car driven by the middle-aged man. His Wrangler had been badly damaged and obviously could not be driven away. After getting into the car, he immediately turned on the engine and stuck his head out. He gritted his teeth and said, "You two sons of asterisk cheese. I'll remember you. I'll find someone now. Just wait for your death." Chapter 503. Just wait for your death. After Mei Junshu finished speaking, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed forward. There was a commotion among the onlookers, and they hurriedly ran to both sides. Seeing that the car was about to rush through the crowd, Li Changsheng suddenly said, "Stop him." As soon as his voice fell, a huge roar was heard. A silver-white tyrannical suddenly rushed out and crashed into the MPV. The MPV that Mei Junshu was driving was knocked 5 or 6 meters away and flipped over on the ground. The violent sound was so loud that it hurt people's eardrums. At this time, several strong men immediately surrounded Mei Junshu, whose head was bleeding, and pulled him out of the broken window. They dragged him like a chick to Li Changsheng and threw him down. "Mr. Li, what should we do with him?" The subordinate asked Li Changsheng for instructions. "How dare you hurt our young master?" The middle-aged man who had been beaten to the ground got up and rushed over like a beast. As soon as he approached, he was kicked 7 or 8 meters away by Qi Xian. "Let him call someone and get his father here," Li Changsheng said coldly. He had been delayed here for more than half an hour. He was very unhappy. "Didn't you hear, Mr. Li? Call someone." Qi Xian kicked Mei Junshu, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog and still breathing, and roared. Okay. Mei Junshu took out his mobile phone from his messy clothes and dialed a number with trembling hands. It didn't take long for a shrill horn to come from the road. A line of more than 20 cars appeared, and a group of people got off. They were led by 3 middle-aged men, and each of their faces was filled with anger. Especially when one of the middle-aged men saw Mei Junshu lying on the ground and covered in blood. He immediately flew into a rage and said coldly, "How dare you hit my son?" "Hello, President Mei. We meet again." After seeing the middle-aged man, Qi Xian smiled slightly. Mei Rihua looked a little confused. "We met 5 years ago. Back then, you went to visit my father. Perhaps it was because I was still young at that time, so my appearance had changed a little." As soon as Qi Xian said that, Mei Rihua suddenly thought of something. The anger on his face disappeared and was replaced by a respectful and flattering smile. "So it's young Master Qi. Which young Master Qi?" The 2 middle-aged men who came with Mei Rihua asked in a low voice when they saw the change in Mei Rihua's attitude. "Sick Tiger Qi Yu's son, Qi Xian?" As soon as he said those words, the 2 middle-aged men behind him trembled. Mei Rihua's ferocious subordinates were about to attack, but Mei Rihua hurriedly stopped them. "Dad, you must avenge me." Mei Junshu, who had just been lying there half-dead, saw his father at this moment. It was as if he had taken a stimulant and immediately became spirited again. "Shut up." Mei Rihua lifted his leg and kicked his son, who had just gotten up, to the ground. Then his face showed a bit of fear, and he wiped the cold sweat on his head. "Young Master Qi, my son had eyes, but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I don't know how he offended you, but I apologize to you here." When Mei Rihua said this, Mei Junshu and the subordinates behind him were dumbfounded. "What's going on? Mr. Li, what do you think?" Qi Xian couldn't help but look at Li Changxing next to him. He was now only Li Changxing's subordinate. Before he came, his father had already told him to follow Li Changxing's lead. Moreover, after the incident in the capital, Qi Xian now sincerely admired Li Changxing. "It's the father's fault for not teaching you well. Kneel down and slap yourself 30 times to take the blame for your son," Li Changxing said coldly. Mei Rihua's face instantly turned ugly. He was the chairman of a Yuanhua group, a prominent figure in the northern part of the country. Today his son had provoked Qi Xian. If he had to pay compensation or something, he would have accepted it. But if he did something as humiliating as kneeling down and being slapped in the face, how would he have the face to meet others in the future if word got out? Moreover, he was afraid of sick Tiger Qi Yu, but it didn't mean that anyone could ride on his neck and shit on him. His expression immediately turned gloomy. "Since you're young Master Qi's friend, I won't fuss over what you said just now. I, Mei Rihua, am not a kitten or puppy who can be beaten and scolded." Mei Rihua's words were quite imposing, but as soon as he finished speaking, Qi Xian immediately flew into a rage. "How dare you be rude to Mr. Li? Are you tired of living?" Out of the 40 strong men behind him, 15 of them stepped forward together. A tang saber appeared in each of their hands, gleaming with a cold light. They were the machete men under Qi Yu. Last time, they followed Qi Xian to the capital to follow Li Changsheng's command. They not only respected Qi Xian, but also Li Changsheng. It's actually the most elite group of machete men under sick Tiger Qi Yu. Mei Rihua's figure trembled. Just now, when he saw the 40 men behind Qi Xian, he didn't think much of it. After all, there were almost 100 people on his side. But if he encountered Qi Yu's machete men, it would be different. Mei Rihua, Mr. Li is already showing mercy by asking you to slap yourself. If you don't want to do it, I promise that within 7 days, your Mei family and your Yuanhua group will disappear from the world. Hearing Qi Xian's words, Mei Rihua's eyes were full of humiliation. In the end, he lowered his head. He knew that Qi Xian wasn't a playboy, but a famous tiger father and son among the rich second generation. No matter how powerful his Yuanhua group was in the north, he didn't dare to compete with sick Tiger Qi Yu. Since young Master Qi said so, I, Mei Rihua, accept my fate. I'll kneel down and slap myself. But my Yuanhua group is one of the top 30 forces in the north. Your Qi family is doing this for such a young man. Aren't you afraid of causing panic among other forces? Don't you want to bear the name of a tyrant? The Qi family was the overlord of the north. But at the same time, if they casually forced the head of an aristocratic family to kneel down and apologize, it would inevitably cause other forces to think that if they accidentally offended the Qi family one day, they would also suffer the same humiliation. At that time, all the families would unite to fight against the Qi family, which was definitely not good news for the Qi family. The Qi family has been in charge of the north for many years. We are the most reasonable. Why would we punish you for no reason? Since you asked, I'll let you know why. This is Mr. Li. If you offend Mr. Li, even if the Qi family doesn't do anything, do you think you can live past tomorrow? Mr. Li? Mei Rihua's face first showed confusion, and then his body suddenly trembled. You mean he's the Mr. Li who killed the Qin family's father and son, was honored as a guest by the Chu family, and stepped on the whole capital a few days ago? After that, he stared at Li Changsheng. His eyes were full of disbelief. He couldn't believe that this ordinary-looking guy in front of him was the Mr. Li who had caused a sensation in the whole of Huaxia recently. Other than him, who else can make the Qi family bow down? As soon as Qi Xian's voice fell, Mei Rihua's strength seemed to be drained, and his face showed some bitterness. I accept my fate. After saying that, he knelt on the ground with a plop and slapped himself on the face. Dad, how can you do this? How can you suffer such humiliation? Seeing this scene, Mei Junshu hurriedly knelt and crawled over. His eyes were red. However, as soon as he crawled over, he was pushed aside by Mei Rihua. I don't have such an unfilial son like you. Don't call me Dad. If it weren't for you, how could I suffer such humiliation and offend Mr. Li? Who is he? Not only Mei Junshu, but his 2 friends and many people around him also looked puzzled. They couldn't understand. Even though Mei Rihua was afraid of Qi Xian, he clearly had resentment in his heart. However, after Qi Xian only said the 3 words Mr. Li, Mei Rihua seemed to have completely accepted his fate and didn't even have any resentment. He's the Mr. Li I told you about, the one who stepped on the whole capital. It's actually him. Mei Junshu sat there with a plop, and there was fear in his eyes. Chapter 504. Li Changsheng got into a business car and was driven by one of Qi Xian's men to the hotel that he had agreed to meet with Ma Yi. When Li Changsheng entered, the hotel room was already full of people. After seeing Li Changsheng, Ma Yi took the initiative to greet him. Beside him were Chao Hui and a few men and women that Li Changsheng did not know. They should be Ma Yi's friends. This is Li Changsheng that I mentioned to everyone. Ma gestured to introduce them to his friends. So Li Changsheng, you're a little different from what I imagined. To be able to defeat Luo-san, I thought that he would at least be muscular since he's big and burly. I didn't expect him to be so thin and weak. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's too weak to stand up to the wind. What is Chinese martial arts? The Real Masters don't show themselves to the public. Several men and women commented on Li Changsheng. Before this, he had already told them about Li Changsheng's deeds. Changsheng, we meet again. Chao Hui took the initiative to go forward and shake Li Changsheng's hand. When they met again, his attitude towards Li Changsheng was obviously very different. He introduced Li Changsheng's friends to him. Most of them were his high school classmates, and 2 of them were his childhood friends. Obviously, he did a good job of maintaining the relationship between friends. It was rare to be able to get together with his high school classmates. Generally, after going to college, many of his classmates would not meet much. The reason why I invited you this time is firstly to apologize to you for what happened at the party that day. Secondly, they want to get to know you. He pulled Li Changsheng to sit next to him. Li Changsheng could also see that he intended to integrate him into his circle. You're late. You can punish yourself with 3 glasses. Sitting next to Li Changsheng was a man who could barely be considered handsome and tall. According to Ma Yi's introduction, he was on the school basketball team in high school. His name was Yu Xiangfei. Obviously, he had a lively personality. Especially in front of girls, he was quite popular. All right, although Li Changsheng could see that this guy's so-called punishment of drinking 3 glasses was to deliberately make him drunk, Li Changsheng was indeed late. Moreover, drinking was no different from drinking plain water for Li Changsheng. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the other party's face showed some surprise. He was only joking at first. After all, each of them was holding a big glass, and they were all drinking 52% white wine. 3 glasses was almost half a caddy. Straightforward, as expected of a martial artist. I have high hopes for you. It's almost dry. I didn't expect to meet a hero in wine. Everyone cheered. Li Changsheng picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp, causing a round of applause. After drinking 2 more cups, many people gave him a thumbs up. After Li Changsheng sat down, Yu Xiangfei suddenly put his arm around Li Changsheng's shoulder. Bro, you're good. I didn't expect you to have such a huge appetite. It's all right. Li Changsheng smiled. He was a little uncomfortable with the other party's intimate behavior. All right, Changsheng, eat a mouthful of food. Yi said, I heard from Yi that you're a popular person in your school, but you're dressed too plainly. Haven't you thought about dressing up more handsome? Maybe a lot of beauties will fall in love with you. A girl sitting opposite Li Changsheng had been sizing him up since Li Changsheng came in. She was wearing a pair of long glasses and belonged to the cute type. Her figure was also relatively petite. I'm used to being casual. Li Changsheng smiled. He remembered that when Yi introduced her, he said that the girl was called Yuan Jiaojiao, Ma Yi's childhood friend. Do you want to add each other on WeChat? Yuan Jiaojiao seemed to be quite interested in Li Changsheng. Sure. Li Changsheng naturally wouldn't refuse. Yi intended to integrate Li Changsheng into his circle at today's dinner. Li Changsheng naturally wouldn't let Yi down. Why don't we play truth or dare? Yi suggested. During this time, several boys took turns toasting Li Changsheng, intending to see Li Changsheng's alcohol tolerance. Li Changsheng didn't refuse any of them. In about 10 minutes, he had already drunk half a liter of white wine. However, his face wasn't red, his heart wasn't beating fast, and he looked like nothing had happened. This made the guys who wanted to take turns to drink Li Changsheng a little hesitant. They couldn't drink much, let alone high alcohol content. At first, when Yi saw his friends trying to drink Li Changsheng, he was a little worried that Li Changsheng would drink too much. He was afraid that Li Changsheng would drink too much. His friends liked to kick up a fuss. Sometimes, they didn't have a sense of propriety. At the last gathering of their high school classmates, they drank a friend to the hospital. However, they didn't learn from their mistakes. However, when he saw Li Changsheng's attitude of even if you have an army of thousands of men and horses, I will not refuse, he slightly relaxed. He thought to himself, this Li Changsheng always surprises people. His martial arts are good, his looks are average, but he is favored by beautiful women. He is also very capable. Now, even his alcohol tolerance can completely crush many people. For a person to be this outstanding, his only flaw is that his looks are average. If he is paired with a handsome face, that person's charm will definitely reach the peak. Thinking of this, even Ma Yi was a little jealous. Next, everyone began to play truth or dare. Yu Xiangfei suggested that one of the options for punishment should be kissing. He was immediately kicked by several girls and scolded for being vulgar and so on. In particular, Yuan Jiaojiao sternly refused, putting an end to the idea of taking advantage of the few male beasts. The first to be asked was Yuan Jiaojiao. Ma Yi asked her, if you had to choose one of the men present to be your boyfriend, who would you choose? She looked at Li Changsheng meaningfully and then said, don't worry. If Li Changsheng was a little more handsome, she might chase after him. Of course, if Li Changsheng was a rich second generation, she wouldn't mind having a relationship with Li Changsheng. It was very realistic, but also very true. Someone jeered, don't tell me you've fallen for Li Changsheng. Next, it was Li Changsheng's turn to be asked. A girl directly continued the topic of Yuan Jiaojiao and asked, Li Changsheng, are you a rich second generation? Li Changsheng shook his head. I said I'm a rich first generation. Okay? We're playing truth or dare. You can't joke around. The girl protested loudly. On the other hand, Ma Yi looked at Li Changsheng thoughtfully, as if he was thinking about something. Then the game continued. When it was Yu Xiangfei's turn to ask a question, he directly asked the girl if she would mind having a one-night stand with a boy, and then added a boy like him. The girl rolled her eyes at him and said, Yu Xiangfei, do you have any shame? In the next few opportunities for Yu Xiangfei to ask questions, he asked similar questions, which made several girls blush and constantly scold him. However, it was obvious that these girls were not really angry. There was also one who took the initiative to flirt with Yu Xiangfei. It was just like the saying, women love bad men. Chapter 505. Because of the game, the atmosphere at the table reached a climax. In the end, other than Li Changsheng, everyone's face was a bit drunk. At this point, everyone was no longer playing games. Instead, they formed small circles one after another. The girls talked about makeup, beauty, branded bags, and the guys talked about gossip, bragging, and chatting. During this time, Chao Hui took the initiative to toast Li Changsheng several times, clearly wanting to make friends with Li Changsheng. Yu Xiangfei's face was slightly red from drinking. He reached out and put his hand on Li Changsheng's shoulder again and laughed. I heard from Ma Yi that you have a good relationship with a few schoolbells, especially the eldest daughter of the Chu family, Chu Ming. Is that true? That's right. Li Changsheng nodded his head and pushed the hand on his shoulder to the side without leaving a trace. However, Yu Xiangfei drank a lot and didn't notice this detail. He continued to ask, are you and Chu Ming boyfriend and girlfriend? Li Changsheng shook his head. His relationship with Chu Ming was a bit ambiguous, and it wasn't confirmed yet. That's good. Yu Xiangfei immediately revealed a happy expression. Can you introduce the eldest daughter of the Chu family to me? You don't know how to use your resources. The Chu family is one of the most famous families in Qing province. With this brother's methods, as long as you introduce her to me, I guarantee that I'll take her down in 3 days. When this brother becomes the son-in-law of the Chu family, I won't forget about you. Hearing the other party's words, Li Changsheng frowned. I'm afraid Chu Ming doesn't like your type. Brother, it seems that you don't want to introduce her to me, so you're keeping her for yourself. But that's fine. I heard that you know a schoolbelle in the 3rd year of high school. Her family isn't very rich, and her name is Wei. If you want to develop a relationship with the eldest daughter of the Chu family, why don't you give her to me? At this time, Li Changsheng's eyes had gradually turned cold. At that time, this guy spoke without thinking and liked to joke, which was still within the scope of his tolerance. However, the other party had his eyes on his woman. Although there was no substantial action, it still made him very unhappy. What's there to be unhappy about? It's just a woman. If you don't want to, just say that you don't want to. Why are you pulling a long face? Yu Xiangfei said unhappily. Even if you don't introduce her to me, will they really follow you wholeheartedly? Why don't you take a look at yourself? If you introduce her to me, I will thank you for your kindness. Don't let the goodies flow into the fields of others. If you let others wear a green hat, How pitiful will you be? Yu Xiangfei's words were very unpleasant. You better shut your mouth, or else I'll throw you out of the window. Li Changsheng suddenly opened his mouth and interrupted him. His voice was very cold. Because Li Changsheng's voice was relatively loud, the other people in the room suddenly stopped talking. Then they cast puzzled looks at the two of them, not knowing what had happened. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yu Xiangfei was about to get angry. However, when he saw Li Changsheng's fierce eyes and thought of what Ma Yi had said about Li Changsheng's kung fu, he immediately suppressed his rising anger and muttered, "Isn't it just kung fu? What's so great about it?" Although he said so, he obviously didn't dare to say more. "Ma Yi, thank you for your hospitality, but your friend really makes me lose my appetite. I'll leave first." Li Changsheng stood up and patted Ma Yi's shoulder. Then he turned and left directly. "I'll send you off." Ma Yi hurriedly stood up. After sending Li Changsheng out of the restaurant and seeing Li Changsheng leave in Qi Xian's car, he returned. After returning to the private room, he immediately looked at Yu Xiangfei angrily. "Yu Xiangfei, what's wrong with you? What did you say to Changsheng to make him angry?" Hearing Ma Yi's question, Yu Xiangfei just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Nothing. I just chatted with him about some ordinary topics. Who knew that your friend was so sensitive and got angry? He can't even joke about it. I don't think he's suitable to join our circle." Hearing Yu Xiangfei's words, the people next to him also echoed, "Yeah, it's just a joke. It's not nice to talk to us the first time we meet. It's better not to be friends with such a person." "Yeah, Ma Yi, when you started to tell us about him, I was wondering what kind of person he was. I didn't expect him to be so unworldly. It's hard to get along with such a person. It's more tiring to interact with him." Hearing his friend's words, Ma Yi didn't know what to say. This time, it's Li Changsheng's fault. Yu Xiangfei was just joking. Chao Hui also said so. Before Ma Yi's anger could erupt, it was dispelled by everyone's words. He glared at Yu Xiangfei fiercely and said, "That's also your fault. It's not easy for me to invite Changsheng." After saying that, he returned to his seat and sat down, thinking, maybe Changsheng is really not suitable to join my circle. Li Changsheng got into the business car. Qi Xian asked with a smile, "What's wrong, sir? Did those kids make you angry?" "They talk without thinking. They're just trash." Li Changsheng smiled. "Do you want me to send someone to teach him a lesson?" Qi Xian asked casually. Li Changsheng shook his head. "He's just a nobody. Why bother with him?" He knew that Qi Xian's so-called lesson was very likely to make him bankrupt. Although that fellow's words were very unpleasant, it wasn't to the extent of dealing with him just because of a few words. Li Changsheng still had this bit of magnanimity. "Changsheng, I'll be in Qingzhou in half an hour. Do you have time? If you do, can you come pick me up?" His WeChat suddenly rang. It was a message from Yu Yue. "Qi Xian, turn around and go to the Qingzhou bus station immediately. I'll go and pick up Yu Yue." Li Changsheng ordered Qi Xian. Qi Xian nodded and immediately changed the route of the car. "Okay, I'll be there right away." After Li Changsheng replied to Yu Yue's message, he put his phone aside. For this kind of thing, as long as Yu Yue said a word, Li Changsheng could send someone to pick her up directly from Medicine King Valley, not to mention going to a bus station. However, Yu Yue always seemed to be afraid of disturbing Li Changsheng. This kind of cautiousness made Li Changsheng speechless. However, he believed that one day, Yu Yue would become a matter of course. When Li Changsheng and Qi Xian arrived at the bus station, Yu Yue hadn't arrived yet. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Li Changsheng, who was smoking with Qi Xian, finally saw Yu Yue's figure in the crowd. White half-sleeve shirt, white jeans, and white canvas shoes. Her pure face and ponytail bouncing as she walked were so down-to-earth that it made people's hearts tremble. Chapter 506. It was rare to find any accessories on Yu Yue, and there wasn't any heavy makeup on her. But even if she didn't have any accessories on her body, she was the most dazzling existence as long as she stood there. Hibiscus from clear water, a natural carving. Changsheng. She hadn't seen Li Changsheng for half a year. The moment she saw Li Changsheng's face, Yu Wei called out softly. When Li Changsheng opened his arms, she threw herself into his arms like a dancing butterfly. When the surrounding boys who were secretly sizing up Yu Wei saw this goddess-like girl in someone else's arms, especially an extremely ordinary guy, they couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Like fresh flowers, cow dung, cabbage, and so on, they couldn't help but criticize silently. Changsheng, I disappeared for half a year. I thought you had forgotten about me. Even though she was Yu Wei, she couldn't help feeling a little resentful at this moment. He kissed her gently on the forehead. It's my fault. I didn't tell you in advance. Li Changsheng gazed at the girl in front of him. When he was with Yu Wei, he always felt very comfortable. Holding her waist, he opened the door and sat directly in the car. Yu Wei instantly blushed. If there were no outsiders present, she could take some intimate actions in front of Li Changsheng for granted. But now, they were in public at the entrance of the station, especially with Qi Xian next to them. Yu Wei's thin skin was a little embarrassed. But at the same time, she couldn't help but feel a sweet feeling in her heart, which made her enjoy the feeling of being cared for. Sister-in-law, you must not have eaten. I've already asked someone to book a table at Hongwang Hotel. Qi Xian was driving in the front, calling Yu Wei's sister-in-law, which made her unable to hide her smile. However, Li Changsheng felt helpless and said, Qi Xian, aren't you afraid that your father will beat you up for calling me that? Indeed, Qi Yu is Li Changsheng's younger brother. Logically speaking, Qi Xian should be a generation younger than Li Changsheng. Now that he addressed Yu Wei as his sister-in-law, wasn't that equivalent to being in the same generation as his father? Let's talk about it separately. Qi Xian chuckled. Li Changsheng and Yu Wei both looked too young. It was really awkward for him to address them as elders. Li Changsheng naturally wouldn't care about such a small matter. He took Yu Wei out for a meal. Because Yu Wei was tired from the car ride, he sent her home to rest and agreed to go out with her the next day. When he left, he happened to meet Yu Baoguo, who was coming back. Yu Baoguo used to work at a construction site and rode an electric bike. This time, he actually changed to a Passat. After seeing Li Changsheng, Yu Baoguo was especially happy. During the conversation with Li Changsheng learned that the car was given by Yu Jianfeng. Since the birthday banquet of Old Master Yu last time, Yu Baoguo's family status in the entire Yu family had skyrocketed, especially Yu Jianfeng, who was very good to Yu Wei's family. He gave them a house, a car, and even arranged a job for them to get paid. Now Yu Baoguo was a manager in Yu Jianfeng's company. He didn't have to do anything every day and only had to get a monthly salary. Although Yu Baoguo was not very educated, he was not stupid. He knew that all this was because of Li Changsheng. Returning to the villa with Qi Xian, Li Changsheng specially helped Qi Xian organize a set of fighting skills according to the martial arts he had learned. He also helped the 15 machete men who went to the capital with Qi Xian and listened to Li Changsheng's command to improve their machete skills. It was also a reward for what they had done in the capital. The next day, Li Changsheng went to pick up Yu Wei. Originally, Yu Wei and Li Changsheng planned to spend some time together. However, when they heard that Yu Wei was back, several of her friends came to find her. In the end, they simply gathered together and went to the hot spring in the North Mountain. Bai Chong, Tseng Pan, Wang Nan, and Jiang Yuanbao, who went to take the driving test with Yu Wei last time, also came with them. After seeing Li Changsheng's power at the driving school last time, Tseng Pan and the others were unusually polite when they saw Li Changsheng. Although it was the first time that the others had seen Li Changsheng, they had heard of Li Changsheng's deeds. Therefore, Li Changsheng, who usually kept a low profile wherever he went, became the backbone of the group this time. Qi Xian got 3 commercial cars, and a few of them went to the North Mountain in a grandiose manner. The North Mountain was a famous hot spring villa in Qingzhou. It was also a very famous tourist attraction. Many tourists came to visit all year round. There were several hot springs from the bottom of the North Mountain to the top of the mountain, but the most famous one was the one at the top of the mountain. When Li Changsheng and the others arrived, the parking lot was already full of cars. Because it was summer vacation now, there were many people who brought their children here to play. Afraid that they could not book a hotel in advance, Li Changsheng directly asked Qi Xian to rent a villa. Together with Yu Youwei's classmates and friends, there were a total of 10 people. The entire villa had a total of 9 rooms. Sung Pan, Bai Chong, Wang Nan, and Jiang Yuanbao stayed in one room, so there was an empty room. Originally, Yu Yuwei wanted to squeeze in a room with a female classmate of hers, but the female classmate refused, saying that she was used to living alone in a room. Therefore, when Li Changsheng put Yu Youwei's suitcase in his room, Yu Youwei's face turned completely red as she looked at the mischievous smiles of the people around her. The villa was expensive, but the environment was very elegant. The Chinese-style mahogany sofa spontaneously gave off a bookish fragrance. Those who could rent a villa were definitely rich people. For this reason, the manager of the hot spring villa specially came over to greet them. Because there were many people, they took their time along the way. By the time they gathered in the hall, it was almost 12 o'clock. It was time to eat. Hearing that Li Changsheng and the others were going to eat, the manager hurriedly introduced, "Our hot spring villa hotel has many special dishes, which are divided into 2 parts, Chinese food and Western food. The Chinese food is divided into 3 restaurants, each with different specialties. In the past, the state banquet restaurant had the most people, but today, the entire floor of the state banquet restaurant has been booked, so we can only choose to eat on the other floors." Speaking of this, the manager was a little emotional. It was not a small sum to book an entire floor of the restaurant. "Okay, I got it." Li Changsheng nodded. He did not have many requirements for eating. "Changsheng, you guys go first. I'll be there later." Yu Yuwei and Bai Chong were chatting there just now. Obviously, there was something going on. "Don't you want to go together?" Li Changsheng glanced at the two of them. "I'm here for business," Yu Yuwei said in a low voice with a red face. Li Changsheng immediately understood and nodded. "Okay, I'll go and order first." However, the hotel was only a few hundred meters away from where they lived. The group of people left the villa and soon arrived. Qi Xian was more popular with girls because he was handsome and looked elegant. There was a pure girl who intentionally or unintentionally went over to gossip with Qi Xian. Unfortunately, Qi Xian did not seem to have much feelings for her. Yu Youwei's classmates came from ordinary families. Therefore, when Li Changsheng and the others sat down in a corner of the restaurant and ordered a table of dishes, everyone was a little shocked. A few girls began to guess what family Li Changsheng was from. He looked like a nouveau riche. Chapter 507. It took more than 10 minutes for Yu Yuwei and Bai Chong to arrive at the restaurant. "By the way, which floor did Changsheng say they were going to eat on?" Yu Yuwei said. Then he remembered that he was busy whispering to Bai Chong that he did not hear which floor Li Changsheng was going to eat on. "The 1st to 3rd floors are for Chinese food, and the 4th to 6th floors are for Western food. They should not eat Western food, so they must be on the 1st to 3rd floors." Bai Chong began to use the elimination method. "But which floor are the 1st to the 3rd floor? Should we give Changsheng a call?" Yu Yuwei was about to take out his mobile phone. "I don't think so. The 3rd floor is the state banquet restaurant. It is said that it is the best restaurant here. They should be on the 3rd floor." Without any explanation, Bai Chong pulled Yu Yuwei into the elevator. At the moment, a small banquet was being held in the state banquet hall on the 3rd floor. Zhang Yang, the general manager of Feiyang Entertainment, a famous film and television company in the entertainment circle, was holding a birthday party here. Zhang Yang's father was a famous big boss in the entertainment circle. Although he was only 28 years old, he invested in Feiyang Entertainment, which had more than a dozen A-list stars and dozens of B-list stars. He had a high status in the entertainment circle. He was also a famous playboy. After all, there were many stars who wanted to use him to get to the top. At this time, Zhang Yang had just finished blowing the birthday cake. It was a lively time. He and several friends were chatting with wine glasses. "Young Master Zhang, I heard that you came to Qingzhou with Mei Junshu from Yuanhua Group. Why didn't I see Mei Junshu today?" A rich second generation from Qingzhou next to him asked with some doubts. Yuanhua Logistics was a famous company in the north. Mei Junshu, the young master, was also a leader in the circle. The reason why Zhang Yang's family was doing well in the entertainment circle was largely because of the support of Yuanhua Group's Mei family. It is said that Zhang Yang's father was Mate Jun Chu's driver before he became rich. Someone next to him said, Mate Jun Chu. Zhang Yang could not help but sigh. Mate Jun Chu collided with someone on the road yesterday. There was a little conflict. Now he is lying in the hospital. Speaking of this, Zhang Yang could not help but sigh. Mei Junshu has so much influence in the north. I didn't expect that he would be defeated in a small ditch in Qingzhou. Looks like this car accident is pretty serious. Someone lamented. Why don't we go visit young Master Mei together? Someone suggested. Immediately, a bunch of voices echoed from the side. This was a good opportunity to get to know young Master Mei. Young Master Mei doesn't want to meet anyone. Zhang Yang shook his head. If he was in a car accident, it wouldn't be a problem for you to visit him. But this time, young Master Mei was hospitalized because he was beaten up after the accident. Even I was rejected by him. You were beaten up? Who would dare to hit young Master Mei? Hearing this news, an uproar broke out among the crowd. He's someone we can't afford to offend. Even young Master Mei can't afford to offend him. Zhang Yang did not want to talk too much about this topic, so he quickly changed the topic. Young Master Jiang, you're a local of Qingzhou. Other than this hot spring villa, where else can you find fun? Introduce me to some places. Also, I haven't touched a girl for quite some time. You know what I mean. Zhang Yang looked at the young man beside him. If Li Changxing was here, he would definitely recognize him. This was Jiang Yitai, Chu Meng's suitor. In addition, Yu Xiangfei, Yuan Jiaojiao, and a few of Ma Yi's friends were also there. But obviously, they were not qualified with their status. They could only stand on the periphery, unlike Jiang Yitai, who could stand beside Zhang Yang. Young Master Zhang, don't worry. Since you're in Qingzhou, I'll definitely arrange everything for you. Jiang Yitai smiled, and there was a subtle flattery in his eyes. He was also a famous figure in the circle of rich second generation in Qingzhou. But compared to people like Zhang Yang, there was still a big gap. Bai Chong, we seem to have gone to the wrong place. This third floor seems to have been booked. When Bai Chong and Yu Yue walked into the hall of the third floor, they finally realized that something was wrong. I told you to call Chongqing first, but you insisted on dragging me up. Let's leave quickly. When the two of them were about to turn around, they heard a voice. Wait a minute, two beauties. Are you also here to attend my birthday party? Zhang Yang just raised his head and saw Yu Yue and Bai Chong who had just barged in. Especially Yu Yue, with a face that could captivate birds and beasts. As the boss of an entertainment company, he did not know how many celebrities he had slept with. At this moment, when he saw Yu Yue for the first time, he felt a rush of excitement. Sorry, we went to the wrong place. When Yu Yue saw Zhang Yang walking towards them, she hurriedly pulled Bai Chong away. Wait a minute. Since we went to the wrong place, it's fate. Why don't we sit down and have a drink? As Zhang Yang quickened his pace, he reached out and grabbed Yu Yue's wrist. Sorry, I can't drink, and I don't like to make friends with strangers. Please let me go. Yu Yue wanted to break free from his hand, but he held on tightly. She shook a few times, but could not get rid of his hand. Suddenly, her face became slightly gloomy. Please let me go. I still have something to do. Don't be angry, beauty. I'm the general manager of Feiyang Entertainment. Many celebrities were groomed by me. I see that you are so beautiful and have the potential to be an actress. Why don't we sit down and have an in-depth conversation? This was Zhang Yang's usual trick. Nowadays, many girls wanted to be celebrities. Many students who had just graduated from college were easily tricked by him with this reason. I don't want to be an actress, and I don't want to know you. Please let me go. Yu You's eyes were already filled with anger. It's your honor to be invited by young Master Zhang. Why don't you appreciate it? At this time, many people behind them surrounded them. Yes, to be chosen by young Master Zhang, you can easily become a big star. Little girl, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Someone persuaded from the side, obviously with some bad intentions. These people were all experts in this field. This kind of pimping was not uncommon. When Jiang Yitai saw Zhang Yang's expression, he immediately understood something and said, This is young Master Zhang's birthday party. You two rashly broke in and affected the progress of the party. It's better to accompany young Master Zhang for a drink. Otherwise, It won't be so easy to leave. The threat in his words was very strong. Let me go quickly. My boyfriend is downstairs. Otherwise, his temper will not be good. Yu Yue's wrist hurt because of Zhang Yang's grip. Her eyes were filled with coldness. Your boyfriend is nothing. Young Master Zhang invited you to drink because he is giving you face. Don't be so shameless, Jiang Yitai said coldly. Chapter 508. You're trying to kidnap a civilian girl in broad daylight. The door of the hall was pushed open and a faint voice sounded. Li Changsheng, Qi Xian, and the others walked in. After waiting for more than 20 minutes on the second floor, Yu Yue did not appear. Li Changsheng guessed that she must have gone to the wrong place. Sure enough, when he reached the third floor, he heard someone bullying Yu Yue. Why is it him? Among the crowd, Yu Xiangfei and the others were surprised when they saw Li Changsheng. This was especially true for Jiang Yitai, who was Li Changsheng's enemy. His eyes blazed with hatred, and his expression became abnormal. Why? Does young Master Jiang know him? Zhang Yang saw Jiang Yitai's expression and asked doubtfully. If it was Jiang Yitai's friend, it was not easy for him to do it. Just an enemy. Jiang Yitai said coldly. Changsheng, you're here. Yu Yue took advantage of the moment when Zhang Yang was stunned. She finally broke free from his hand and ran to Li Changsheng's side. It seems that you're her boyfriend. Just now she accidentally broke into my birthday party. I wanted to invite her to have a drink based on the principle of being a guest. Who knew she would react so violently? Zhang Yang returned to his well-dressed appearance and said with a smile. He was indeed unreasonable just now because of his lust. Why don't you all sit down and have a drink? It's fate to meet. Zhang Yang looked generous, but he began to make small calculations in his heart. If it were not for the previous incident, they would really think that he was a modest gentleman. There's no need for a drink. You hurt my girlfriend's wrist just now. Slap yourself twice as an apology to my girlfriend. Li Changsheng said coldly. What did you say? Zhang Yang suddenly opened his eyes wide. In his opinion, he had given enough face to the other party by being so polite, but the other party actually asked him to slap himself. Was there a mistake? The others also had a look of disbelief. On the other hand, Jiang Yitai's eyes were filled with excitement. Originally, when Zhang Yang asked Li Changsheng and the others to sit down and have a drink, Jiang Yitai felt a little regretful that the two sides could not have a conflict. He never thought that Li Changsheng would be so arrogant. Friend, do you know who I am? The smile on Zhang Yang's face froze, and his eyes turned cold. I don't care who you are. Since you provoked my girlfriend, I'm only asking you to slap yourself twice. That's already merciful enough. If you don't do as I say, do you believe that I will cripple you? Li Changsheng spoke again. Everyone was so shocked that their jaws dropped slightly. This is too arrogant. Jiang Yitai, who was standing beside Li Changsheng, was even more delighted. He could not wait for Li Changsheng to get even crazier. The more Li Changsheng offends Zhang Yang, the harder it would be for Zhang Yang to clean up the mess. On the other side, Yuan Jiaojiao, Yu Xiangfei, and the others were a little dumbfounded. They did not expect Ma Yi's friend to be so bold that he did not lose the limelight in the face of young Master Zhang's power. A man next to him sighed. He's got guts, but young Master Zhang is not that easy to offend. When young Master Zhang gets angry later, he will suffer. Yu Xiangfei's face was full of expectation. That day, Li Changsheng did not give him face, which made him quite angry. So he wanted to see the scene of Li Changsheng being taught a lesson by Zhang Yang. This Li Changsheng is Ma Yi's friend. Do you think we should go and talk to him? Otherwise, when young Master Zhang gets angry later, he will definitely be taught a lesson. Yuan Jiaojiao had a good impression of Li Changsheng that day, so she suggested at this moment, I think we'd better not get involved in this matter. He is just Ma Yi's friend and has nothing to do with us. Moreover, young Master Zhang has a bad temper. If we fail to catch the fox, we will get into trouble instead. It won't be good if young Master Zhang holds a grudge against us. The people next to him immediately objected. But are we just going to watch him be taught a lesson for offending young Master Zhang? Yuan Zhao's eyes were somewhat unbearable. However, when she saw the indifferent faces of the people next to her, she finally sighed and stopped talking. Although she had a good impression of Li Changsheng, it was just that. It was not to the point that she would offend young Master Zhang for Li Changsheng. At this moment, among the guests in the hall, a middle-aged man with a hawk nose and half-bald head came out. He wore a gold watch on his wrist and a suit, but he gave people a strange feeling. Behind him, there were two subordinates with extraordinary momentum. They strode towards Li Changsheng's position. "Young Master Zhang is my guest in Qingzhou. Who do you think you are? How dare you make young Master Zhang slap himself?" When the bald man appeared, even Zhang Yang's face showed respect. "Boss Liu, you came to my birthday party. I'm sorry to disturb you with such a small matter." Zhang Yang's attitude towards Boss Liu was very polite. "He is Liu Yuding, Boss Liu." The faces of Tsung Pan and the others behind Li Changsheng suddenly changed. They were all born and raised in Qingzhou. Naturally, they knew Liu Yuding's name. Originally, he was just a gangster in Qingzhou. Later, because he dared to fight and kill, he quickly rose up in the most chaotic era of Qingzhou. Later, he followed the most powerful person in Qingzhou, Qin Hao. After Qin Hao collapsed a year ago, he quickly rose up and took over most of Qin Hao's territory. Now, he was second only to the Chu family in Qingzhou. "Boy, it is your blessing that young Master Zhang likes your girlfriend. Now, let your girlfriend stay with young Master Zhang. Then, we will let bygones be bygones." Liu Yuding's eyes swept over Yu Wei, who was standing beside Li Changsheng. A trace of undetectable greed flashed in his eyes. From the beginning to the end, he did not look at Li Changsheng. As far as he was concerned, Li Changsheng was just a reckless brat who didn't know what was good for him. Changsheng quickly bowed down and apologized to him. "See if he will let Yu Wei go. This Liu Yuding is not to be trifled with." Tsung Pan whispered behind him. "Yes, Changsheng, you were too reckless just now. If you had spoken nicely from the beginning, you would not have caused such a big trouble." Jiang Yuanbao also whispered, "You even dare to have ideas about my woman. It seems that after not returning to Qingzhou for half a year, people have forgotten my name." Just when everyone thought that Li Changsheng would kneel down and beg for young Master Zhang's forgiveness, they heard Li Changsheng speak coldly. "Boy, what do you mean by that?" Liu Yuding originally wanted to show off his strength in front of Zhang Yang. However, he did not expect Li Changsheng to dare to provoke him in public. Suddenly, his face turned cold. On the other side, Yuan Zhao and the others were also shocked. They knew Liu Yuding's temper. This person was ruthless and could do anything. Li Changsheng dared to offend him in public. This was tantamount to courting death. Tsung Pan and the others were so scared that their hearts were thumping. Jiang Yitai sneered. Chapter 509. Liu Baldi was stunned by Li Changsheng's words, but soon a sneer appeared on his face. This plain-looking guy actually dared to threaten him. He was simply courting death. Behind Li Changsheng, Tsung Pan, Jiang Yuanbao, and the others were already pale with fright. As for the girls, they could not stand still, and their bodies were constantly trembling. Qi Xian's face was indifferent, and his eyes were full of cold light. He was like a cheetah waiting for an opportunity. As long as Li Changsheng said a word, he would immediately rush out. The scene fell into a short silence, like the calm before the storm. Yu Wei stood quietly beside Li Changsheng, without the slightest worry on her face. In her heart, as long as Li Changsheng was there, even if the sky fell, she would not be afraid. Most of the people present had a playful expression on their faces. They were curious about the young man's ultimate fate. Jiang Yitai, who was standing next to Zhang Yang, shouted to Li Changsheng, since you know Chu Ming, quickly kowtow and apologized to young Master Zhang and Boss Liu. "Let your girlfriend stay and drink with young Master Zhang. Then I will ask young Master Zhang to forgive you." Jiang Yitai's words seemed to be helping Li Changsheng, but in fact, he wanted to embarrass Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng knelt down, he would lose face. As for whether he would really intercede with Zhang Yang, it was impossible. He could not wait for Li Changsheng to be severely punished. Because of Lu Baldi's presence, Zhang Yang felt that the overall situation was under control. He walked to Li Changsheng with a gloomy face, pointed at his chest with his finger, and looked at Li Changsheng condescendingly. "Boy, do you understand young Master Zhang's words? Why don't you kneel down and kowtow?" The next moment, Li Changsheng suddenly puffed out his chest and took a step forward. Zhang Yang, who was about to touch his body, was knocked off balance by Li Changsheng's movement. He took 2 steps back before he could stop. Zhang Yang's face showed anger. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. Who would have thought that under such circumstances, Li Changsheng would actually make such a provocative move? This time, Zhang Yang did not have to say anything. Baldy Lu had already signaled his subordinates to step forward. The 1.8-meter-tall man reached out and pushed Li Changsheng. However, to his disappointment, he pushed Li Changsheng with all his might, but Li Changsheng did not budge at all. "It seems that you still have some strength left in you." In front of so many people, Baldy Lu felt a little embarrassed. He took out a dagger from his pocket and gestured a few times. Then, he hooked his finger at Li Changsheng. "Kid, come to me." Li Changsheng didn't say anything. He obediently walked in front of Baldy Lu. The surrounding people watched quietly. From their point of view, Li Changsheng walked over obediently because he was afraid. "Young Master Zhang, it's up to you how to deal with him." Baldy Lu was a wily old fox. Just now, Zhang Yang was pushed back by Li Changsheng. He was holding back a burst of anger in his heart. He knew that this was the time for Zhang Yang to show off. Zhang Yang nodded and walked in front of Li Changsheng with a cold face. He patted Li Changsheng's cheek with his hand and said, "Kid, I gave you face, but you didn't want it. Weren't you very arrogant just now? You even dared to bump into me. If you have the guts, do it again." As he said that, he laughed loudly. "Just now, you said that others had forgotten your identity. What is your identity? Tell me, and let me hear it." As he said that, he pulled a chair from the side and sat down. His body, which had been hollowed out by wine and women, could not stand standing for too long. Yuan Jiaojiao, who was next to him, wanted to say a few words for Li Changsheng. However, when she saw Zhang Yang's angry face, she finally gave up the idea. Baldy Lu, who thought that he had the overall situation under control, suddenly inserted the dagger in his hand on the table. He stared at Li Changsheng and shouted, "Hurry up and kneel down and kowtow to young Master Zhang. Otherwise, do you believe that I won't stab a few holes in your body?" Baldy Lu said fiercely, making many people shrink their necks. "Oh," Li Changsheng responded softly. The surrounding people could not help but show contempt in their eyes. This guy pretended to have a backbone at the beginning. I didn't expect him to become a coward when Boss Lu got angry. Yuan Jiaojiao shook her head and was very disappointed. At first, she still had a good impression of Li Changsheng. However, since Li Changsheng was so tough at the beginning, and now he suddenly became soft, it made her feel a little disgusted. Pretentious. I thought he was very powerful. Bai Chong and others were also lamenting in their hearts. At the same time, they were thinking about how to retreat. At this time, Li Changsheng, who everyone thought was going to kneel down and kowtow, suddenly raised his head. His face showed a bit of fierceness. He lifted his foot and kicked Zhang Yang, who was sitting on the stool, in the chest. Boom! Zhang Yang, who was unprepared, fell to the ground with the chair. Baldy Lu, who was next to him, was worthy of being a person who had been in the underworld for a long time. He immediately reacted and pulled out the dagger on the table to rush up. However, Li Changsheng grabbed a stool next to him and threw it at him. Baldy Lu was directly hit by the stool and took a few steps back. Two of Baldy Lu's subordinates also rushed up, but they could not get close to Li Changsheng. Zhang Yang, who staggered from the ground, roared, "Kill him for me." Some of Zhang Yang's friends also joined the battle. A guy with a bottle quietly went behind Li Changsheng and wanted to hit the back of Li Changsheng's head. "Changsheng, be careful," Yu Yue loudly reminded. However, Li Changsheng did not even turn his head. He directly kicked the guy's heart with a dragon tail swing. With a bang, the other party was sent flying back more than 3 meters. The scene was completely chaotic. In general, Li Changxing was fighting against several people, but he was not at a disadvantage. His attacks were very efficient. However, the people in the field were not optimistic about Li Changxing. After all, this was Zhang Yang's territory. More and more people joined the battle. After dealing with another rich second generation who joined the battle, Li Changxing rushed to Zhang Yang's side. He grabbed his hair and pulled him to the ground. At this time, Baldy Lu finally rushed up with a dagger in his hand. He was about to stab Li Changxing. However, before he could do anything, a cold, pitch-black pistol was pressed against his temple. It was the most common type 54 pistol. The anger in Baldy Lu's heart was poured from head to toe by a basin of cold water. The cold texture reminded him that this gun was definitely not a toy. Qi Xian, with a cold face, said with a smile, "I haven't played with a gun for a long time. I wonder if I can shoot accurately?" Baldy Lu, who was all-powerful in Qingzhou, wanted to cry but had no tears. His heart was full of helplessness. The gun was pointed at his head. Did he still need to aim? Chapter 510. The panicked atmosphere in the hall quieted down as Qi Xian pressed the gun against Baldy Lu's head. The deterrent force of a gun was incomparable to other weapons. Li Changxing also loosened his grip on Zhang Yang's hair and turned around to face Baldy Lu, who was standing there motionless. Li Changxing grabbed the bottle on the table and smashed it on Baldy Lu's head without hesitation. Crack! With a crisp sound, glass shards mixed with wine spread down from his bald head. Blood instantly covered his cheeks. Baldy Lu did not dare to move. He was afraid that if he moved, the gun against his head would accidentally fire. "What did you say just now? You want me to kneel down and kowtow to you, right?" Li Changxing smiled and kicked Baldy Lu's leg. With a crack, Baldy Lu knelt on the ground and his legs bent in a strange posture. He finally could not help but scream. "Ah!" He covered his thighs with both hands and helplessly sucked in cold air. His head was covered with cold sweat. Zhang Yang, who finally got up from the ground, was so scared that his teeth chattered when he saw the scene. He fled into the crowd in a panic. Bang! Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, shaking the floor. The sound echoed in the hall, making people's ears ring. Zhang Yang, who just got up and took a step, was so scared that he stopped moving after the gunshot. His body was stiff as if he had been paralyzed. At this time, Qi Xian walked over. He pressed the smoking muzzle against Zhang Yang's head and asked Li Changxing, "Sir, how should we deal with him?" At this moment, everyone in the hall was completely dumbfounded. Zhang Yang, who had a gun against his head, was trembling. "Humph! I don't believe you dare to kill." At this time, Jiang Yitai stood up and said loudly. Everyone in the hall was stunned at first, and then they reacted. Yes, no matter how brutal Qi Xian and Li Changxing were, beating someone up and killing someone were two completely different concepts. Let alone Zhang Yang, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Even if it were a commoner with no background or a beggar on the streets, the consequences would still be unbearable. "Do you also think that I won't dare to kill you?" Qi Xian's muzzle moved down and finally pressed against Zhang Yang's mouth. Zhang Yang had just fired a shot, so the muzzle of the gun was still a little hot. Zhang Yang let out a whimper as he was scalded. However, he held it in and did not dare to move. "Mr. Li, what do you think?" Qi Xian asked Li Changxing for instructions. Ordinary people didn't dare to kill, but for Qi Xian, as long as Li Changxing gave the order, he would pull the trigger without hesitation. At this time, Li Changxing walked in front of Qi Xian and reached out to take the gun from him. Zhang Yang heaved a sigh of relief when the gun in his mouth was taken away. Then he saw Li Changxing raise his hand and shoot him in the thigh. Bang! The sudden movement shocked everyone in the field. Zhang Yang even fell to the ground and let out a scream. But soon he found that there was no pain in his thigh. The bullet just pierced his inner thigh and hit the floor. "I'm really sorry. My hand just shook and I missed." Li Changxing grinned at Zhang Yang and raised the gun again. Zhang Yang knew that Li Changxing did it on purpose, but he was completely scared out of his wits. This time, Li Changxing didn't need to do anything. He directly knelt in front of Li Changsheng. "Sir, I was wrong. Please let me go." His psychological defense had completely collapsed. "You want me to let you go? You wish." Li Changsheng snorted and raised the gun again. Bang! The bullet hit his knee and blood splattered. The next moment, Zhang Yang screamed, covering his leg and rolling on the ground. When Li Changsheng shifted his gaze to Jian Yitai was already standing there in a daze. Without waiting for Li Changsheng to speak, he knelt on the ground and begged for forgiveness loudly. "Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please let me go." Indeed, Li Changsheng did not hesitate to shoot at Zhang Yang, and Jian Yitai was at most a small follower of Zhang Yang. If Li Changsheng dared to shoot at Zhang Yang, he naturally dared to shoot at him. What a waste. Li Changsheng did not do anything to him, but returned the gun to Qi Xian. He turned and walked out of the hall, holding Yu You's hand. It was not until Li Changsheng left the hall for a long time that Tseng Pan and others reacted and hurriedly followed behind. At this time, in the restaurant on the second floor, the dishes they ordered were all served. However, because of the incident on the third floor, everyone was frightened and had no appetite at the moment. However, Qi Xian and Li Changsheng, the two parties involved, did not seem to care about what happened just now. That Zhang Yang is said to be the son of a big shot in the entertainment industry. "Changsheng, let's stop playing and leave quickly," Tseng Pan said with a worried face. The others also nodded, although Li Changsheng and Qi Xian looked very fierce, especially Qi Xian, who carried a gun with him, indicating that his background was not ordinary. In their view, Zhang Yang was not to be trifled with. "It's okay." Li Changsheng smiled. "After dinner, let's go to the hot spring." At this moment, Zhang Yang had already been carried to the hospital. Jian Yitai, who got up from the ground with a humiliated face, looked in the direction where Li Changsheng and others left with resentment in his eyes. "Young Master Jiang, who are these people? Are we just going to tolerate this?" A rich second generation next to him, who did not dare to speak when Li Changsheng was there just now, spoke angrily at this moment. "Of course we can't tolerate it, but if he can carry a gun with him, I'm afraid his background is not ordinary. He is not to be trifled with. Then what should we do?" Another rich second generation said. They were all in the same circle. Zhang Yang was the leader of the circle. Now that Zhang Yang was beaten and hospitalized, so many people did not even dare to say a word. If this spread out, they would have no face in the future. "Have you forgotten who young Master Zhang accompanied to Qingzhou this time?" Jiang Yitai sneered. "You mean Mei Junqiu from Yuanhua Logistics, young Master Mei?" "But young Master Mei is in the hospital now." "It's okay. Although he is in the hospital, young Master Mei still has a lot of connections. As long as young Master Mei says a word and sends some people, that Li Changsheng can be destroyed in minutes." Jiang Yitai said with resentment. "It makes sense." The people next to him showed joy on their faces. Not far away, Yuan Jiaojiao heard all this and showed some hesitation in her eyes. Should I tell Li Changsheng to avoid it in advance? Chapter 511. When they left the restaurant by Chong, Tseng Pan, and the others looked worried. They went to the hot spring together, but except for Li Changsheng and Qi Xian, a few of them had a good time. The others were still frowning. When they returned to the villa after the hot spring, Li Changsheng and the others realized that enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Jiang Yitai and the others lived in the villa next to theirs. Looking from the window, they could see that there were people talking on the phone. People came and went, and the atmosphere was a little tense. They must have called for help. Tseng Pan said with some worry. "Why don't we retreat? If they call for help, it will be difficult for us to leave." Tseng Pan's words were supported by many people. Yes, a strong dragon cannot defeat a snake in its old haunts. Not to mention Zhang Yang is a dragon. "What dragon? I think he is at most an earthworm." Li Changsheng laughed. "Don't worry, everyone. Don't worry. It's just Zhang Yang. He's nothing." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Tseng Pan and the others still shook their heads. Looking at their restlessness, Li Changsheng could not help but sigh. "I will definitely not leave. If you are afraid, go down a mountain first. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Tseng Pan and the others felt relieved as if they had heard an imperial edict. Then we'll go first. Saying that, he looked at Jiang Yuan Bao and the others. Who want to go down the mountain with me? After saying that, everyone walked out, leaving only Qi Xian, Yu Wei, and Li Changsheng. Jiang Yuan Bao looked at Li Changsheng and said, Changsheng, then we will go. Take care of yourselves. After saying that, they walked out of the villa. Qi Xian specially sent a driver to take them down the mountain. In the business car, Bai Chong looked back at the villa and said, Is it too disloyal for us to leave like this? What if Li Changsheng and the others are retaliated against? Hearing Bai Chang's words, Tseng Pan shook his head and said, But what can we do? That Li Changsheng is so arrogant that he won't follow us down the mountain. He can't expect us to stay here and wait for death with him. I hope they're all right. In the end, Bai Chong sighed. After Bai Chong and the others left, the villa, which was originally bustling with noise and excitement, suddenly became empty. Sitting on the sofa, Yi Wei was helping Li Changsheng peel oranges while Qi Xian was practicing his boxing skills. Li Changsheng had tailor-made a set of martial arts for him. In the past few days, he had almost been possessed by the devil. Whenever he had some free time, he would practice martial arts. Ding-ling-ling. The doorbell suddenly rang. Yu Wei went to open the door and saw Yuan Jiaojiao standing there. Come in, Yu Wei said politely. Unexpectedly, Yuan Jiaojiao shook her head and pointed at Li Changsheng, who was sitting on the sofa. Can you ask Changxing to come out for a while? I have something to tell him. Okay. Yu Wei looked at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng stuffed the half of the orange in his hand into his mouth, put on his slippers, and walked to the door of the villa. What's the matter? Why don't we talk inside? No. Yuan Jiaojiao shook her head. After hesitating for a moment, she said, Li Changsheng, you should leave quickly. You hit Zhangyang. They have invited helpers and will be on the mountains soon. I heard that the other party's strength is not ordinary. It should not be too late for you to leave now. Hearing Yuan Jiaojiao's words, Li Changxing shook his head and said with a smile, Don't worry. Since I dared to hit Zhangyang, I'm not afraid that he will find someone to take revenge. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Yuan Jiaojiao's eyes showed some disappointment and she sighed. I've already conveyed your message. Since you're determined not to leave, then don't regret it. After that, she turned and left directly. Don't you want to come in and sit for a while? Li Changxing said politely. But Yuan Jiaojiao did not look back at all. At this time, the villa next door was full of people. Most of the people who came to the banquet did not leave. They all knew that something big would happen in the evening. After Yuan Jiaojiao returned to the villa, Yu Xiangfei asked, You went to inform Li Changsheng? Yes. Yuan Jiaojiao nodded with a blank expression. He is my Yi's friend. I can't just sit back and do nothing, right? What did he say? He refused to leave. Yuan Jiaojiao snorted coldly. When she thought of Li Changsheng, who did not appreciate her kindness in informing him, she was angry. Hey, I think he can't recognize himself at all. If he doesn't leave now, it will be too late to leave later. Yu Xiangfei's tone was full of gloating. At this time, a row of black Mercedes-Benz cars stopped at the door of the villa, and then a middle-aged man with a gloomy face walked in. Behind him were more than 30 men with great momentum. As he walked into the villa, the already crowded villa became even more crowded. Jiang Yitai and several rich second generations hurried to greet him. I'm here on young Master Mei's order. I heard that young Master Zhang was beaten up. The middle-aged man sat down on the sofa. The rich second generations who were sitting on the sofa hurriedly stood up and stood aside. Yes, that guy has a gun in his hand. He shot young Master Zhang's leg and broke the leg of Qingzhou's local bully, Baldi Lu. Jiang Yitai was the one with the highest status in the scene, but he still looked cautious in front of the middle-aged man. Where's the other party? I like to see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms and still plays with guns. If I give him my head, will he dare to shoot? The middle-aged man snorted coldly. He is in the villa next door and has not left. Jiang Yitai had sent people to secretly monitor Li Changsheng and the others. When he saw Bai Chong and the others leave, he thought Li Changsheng and the others were going to run away. However, when he saw that Li Changsheng and Qi Xian did not come out, he was relieved. It seems that he has guts. The middle-aged man pointed to a rich second generation in the crowd. You go and call them. Tell them that Master Shui wants to see him. Yes. The rich second generation hurriedly nodded. When the middle-aged man's words fell, many people in the field were surprised. Mei Rihua, the founder of Yuanhua Group, had an extremely fierce general with the surname Shui, who specialized in dealing with some shady things for Yuanhua Group. Are you Master Shui Gang? Jiang Yitai asked cautiously. Yes, I am. What's wrong? Nothing. I've heard a lot about Master Shui. Jiang Yitai's face suddenly showed joy. Shui Gang's name was famous in their circle. There were many stories about him, and it was very legendary. Originally, he was afraid that the people sent by Yuanhua Logistics were not enough to suppress Li Changshin and the others. But when he learned Shui Gang's identity, he was relieved. Chapter 512. Li Changsheng was lying on the sofa watching TV, while Yu Wei gently massaged his thigh. Just then, there was the sound of someone kicking the door of the villa. Bang! 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 He used a lot of strength. Sitting in the living room, it was deafening. Li Changsheng gestured to Qi Xian, who was practicing. He stopped, walked to the door, and opened it with a gloomy face. A second-generation rich kid walked in with an arrogant face and looked down at Li Changsheng condescendingly. Mr. Li, Master Shui wants to see you. Come with me. After witnessing Li Changsheng's performance in the restaurant, the rich second-generation heir was a little afraid of Li Changsheng. However, when he thought of Master Shui's power, Li Changsheng was nothing. Who is Master Shui? He's not worthy of me seeing him. Go back and tell him that I'm not free. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, his gaze returned to the screen where the drama was playing. This caused the aggressive, rich second generation to be stunned. He originally thought that after Li Changsheng heard the name of Shui Yi, even if he wasn't scared out of his wits, he would at least be polite to him. Who would have thought that Li Changsheng would have such an attitude? He didn't care about Master Shui at all. Mr. Li, I'm warning you. Master Shui has a bad temper. Master Shui is the top general of Yuanhua Logistics Chairman, Mei Rihua. The rich second-generation heir wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Li Changsheng. Qi Xian, teach him a lesson. With that, Qi Xian walked up to the rich second-generation heir and reached out to grab his collar. The originally arrogant, rich second-generation heir immediately panicked. What do you want to do? I'm representing Master Shui. Slap! Slap! 2 crisp slaps landed on his face, forcing him to swallow the rest of his words back into his stomach. Master Shui, Bullsh *T. How can a lackey like him be worthy of my master seeing him? Even his master, Mei Rihua, doesn't dare to act rashly in front of my master. Qi Xian snorted. He looked at Li Changsheng. Sir, what should we do with this guy? At this moment, the rich second generation was trembling in fear. He knew that he had made a mistake by relying on Shui Gang's name to intimidate others. The 2 vicious men before him clearly didn't put Shui Gang in their eyes. He's just an ant. Make him scram. Li Changsheng casually waved his hand. Qi Xian then let go of the rich second generation's collar and said coldly, Go back and tell Shui that if he doesn't want to lie in the hospital like his young master, he should come and apologize to Mr. Li within 10 minutes. Hearing Qi Xian's words, the rich second-generation heir was dumbfounded. Asking the dignified Shui Yi to apologize to them, this tone was definitely arrogant enough. However, he didn't dare to say anything. Instead, he hurriedly nodded and ran out of the villa in a sorry state. At this moment, Shui Gang was sitting on the sofa with a banana in his hand. Next to him, Jiang Yitai was exaggerating the evil deeds of Li Changsheng and Shui Gang. In his narration, he described Li Changsheng and Shui Gang as arrogant and ignorant boys who didn't put young Master Mei in their eyes. These were all made up by him. Li Changsheng didn't know about the relationship between Mei Junshu and Zhang Yang before this. However, Jiang Yitai was obviously a good storyteller and made Shui Gang completely believe his words. Oomph! How dare you look down on my young master? How hateful! First, it was Mr. Li who beat my young master into the hospital, and now this Li guy popped out. I can't deal with Mr. Li, but can I deal with this one? Shui Gang said fiercely. At this moment, there was a rush of footsteps. The rich second-generation heir pushed through the crowd and walked to Shui Gang. Looking at the rich second-generation heir who was out of breath, Shui Gang couldn't help but frown. Where's the person I asked you to call? Where is he? After taking a few breaths, the rich second generation angrily complained, I conveyed your message, Master Shui, but the other party didn't put you in their eyes at all. Not only did he beat me, but he also asked you to kowtow and apologize to him within 10 minutes. What? Did he really say that? Shui Gang's anger rose to his head. Yes. He also said that if you don't go, you and young master may well have the same ending. The rich second generation saw that Shui Gang was angry and wanted to add more firewood to make Shui Gang's anger burn more vigorously. Who knew that after hearing his words, the expression on Shui Gang's face instantly stiffened. That angry look disappeared and was replaced by a bit of fear. Mr. Li Changsheng, they are really the same person. Shui Gang muttered to himself. Master Shui, that Li Changsheng is very arrogant. You must teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he will think that you're easy to bully. Jiang Yitai also added oil and vinegar, fanning the flames. Shut up. Who knew that before his voice fell, Shui Gang would glare at him fiercely. Jiang Yitai, you made me miserable. I'll deal with you later. After saying that, he directly rushed out of the villa under everyone's surprised eyes, leaving the crowd looking at each other in dismay, not understanding what had happened. At this moment, the waiters who had just finished delivering things to the guests in each villa were sitting on the wooden chairs in the middle of the two villas and chatting. Have you heard? Two groups of guests had a conflict in the state banquet hall on the third floor of the restaurant. I heard that guns were used. A male waiter said to the female waiter next to him. Really? That's so scary. I think the young man living in the villa is very easy to talk to, and the cool young man next to him doesn't look so fierce. Could it be that people are talking nonsense? The female waiter who had just come out of Li Changsheng's villa said with some disbelief. It's true. Many people saw it with their own eyes. The people who suffered losses have begun to look for helpers. I just saw a fierce middle-aged man appear. It said that he's Shui Gang. The male waiter lowered his voice and said, even Shui Gang was alarmed. Maybe there will be a big fight tonight. Shui Gang? Is he the manager of Yuanhua Logistics? The famous hoodlum from a few years ago? The female waiter covered her mouth and looked surprised. Shui Gang was one of the few big shots in the underworld that she knew. Yes, that's him. As soon as the male waiter's voice fell, the expression on his face became abnormal. What's wrong? Why aren't you talking? The female waiter looked up and saw a middle-aged man hurriedly coming out of the villa and walking to another villa. He looked a little flustered. After passing by them, the male waiter reacted and whispered, he's Shui Gang. Is he going to find trouble with the two young men inside? I heard that this Shui Gang stayed in Mount Song when he was young. He's very powerful. It seems that a good show is about to begin. But I don't think he's going to find trouble with them. It's more like he's going to apologize after making a mistake. The female waiter analyzed. How is that possible? Who is Shui Gang? It's good enough that he didn't peel off the skin of those two young men. How can he apologize? It said that a girl's sixth sense is very accurate. I can't see it right. As soon as the male waiter's voice fell, he saw Shui Gang, who had walked to the villa's door, kneel in the courtyard and loudly said, Mr. Li, please forgive me. I'm here to apologize to you. Chapter 5:13. Shui Gang knelt in front of the villa with his head lowered, like a primary school student who had made a mistake and was waiting for his teacher's punishment. Although he knew that such an action was very embarrassing, he couldn't care less about it at this moment. His young master had been beaten into the hospital, but Mei Hua, who had always loved his son, didn't show any signs of revenge. Instead, he instructed his subordinates to keep a low profile in Qingzhou and not cause any trouble. He only knew who his young master had offended because he was one of Mei Rihua's close subordinates. Mr. Li of Qingzhou and Qi Xian, the son of the sickly tiger Qiyu. One had risen rapidly in Qingzhou in just a year, destroyed the Qin father and son, and even trampled on the neighboring Chuzhou. The other one was the son of the sickly tiger Qiyu. With this identity alone, he could do whatever he wanted in the entire north. For a force like the Mei family, Qi Xian could eradicate them like crushing an ant with a single word. When he received Jiang Yitai's call, he volunteered to relieve the depression in his heart. But who would have thought that he would run into these two malefactors again? When one was down on their luck, even drinking cold water would get stuck in their teeth. At this moment, he only hoped that he could be forgiven by the two of them. Otherwise, if the two of them got angry and went to find trouble with the Mei family, at that time, even if the two of them did not do anything to him, his master, Mei Rihua, would not let him off easily. The two waiters next to him were completely dumbfounded. The famous Shui Gang is actually kneeling in front of the villa. Who are the two young men in the villa? Shui Gang is here to ask for forgiveness. Shui Gang said loudly as he knelt in front of the villa. After 5 or 6 minutes, a faint voice came from inside. Kowtow 3 times and get lost. Kneeling and kowtowing was undoubtedly a very humiliating thing, but Shui Gang breathed a sigh of relief. His face lit up with joy, and then he kowtowed 3 times without hesitation. It was a genuine kowtow, without the slightest bit of falsehood. So much so that after 3 kowtows, his forehead had already turned purplish-green. He stood up from the ground, got into his car, and left with his subordinates. At this moment, Jiang Yitai was sitting on pins and needles in the villa. Finally, one of the men they sent to monitor the opposite side ran in. How was it? Did Master Shui go to find trouble with Li Changsheng? Jiang Yitai asked hurriedly. The subordinate shook his head. Master Shui didn't find trouble with the other party. Instead, he kowtowed 3 times in front of the villa and then went down the mountain. What? Jiang Yitai's face turned pale, and he plopped down on the sofa. From Shui Gang's final demeanor, Jiang Yitai had a bad premonition in his heart, but he didn't want to admit it. He didn't expect his premonition to come true. Shui Gang is actually kowtowing to him? How is this possible? How is that possible? Jiang Yitai repeated these words repeatedly. Even Yuan Jiaojiao, Yu Xiangfei, and the others were dumbfounded. No wonder Li Changsheng was so indifferent when he heard my report. It turns out that I underestimated him. Yuan Jiaojiao muttered to herself. On the other hand, Yu Xiangfei's expression was very ugly. Thinking of the words he said to Li Changsheng when Ma Yi treated him to a meal, he couldn't help but feel a little terrified. What should he do if Li Changsheng held a grudge against him and retaliated against him? After all, even Shui Gang had to kneel down and apologize. It would be too easy for Li Changsheng to clean him up. The rich second generations who were clamoring to clean up Li Changsheng collectively lost their voices. Only at this moment did they realize the fact that Li Changsheng's ability was far beyond their imagination. What should we do? Many people looked at Jiang Yitai. Jiang Yitai's mind was in a mess at the moment, but he still forced himself to be calm and said, "What else can we do? Let's go down the mountain and disappear from his sight as soon as possible." Everyone nodded, and no one refuted him. Soon, the people in the villa disappeared in less than 5 minutes as a luxury car drove down the mountain. Yuan Jiaojiao originally wanted to visit Li Changsheng again before leaving, but she finally dispelled the idea after seeing her friend Yu Xiangfei's absent-minded look. In the villa, Yu Wei was teaching Li Changsheng how to play PUBG. They were so bored that they could only use their mobile phones to kill time. The rules of the game were simple, and Li Changsheng's ability to learn was also very fast. Soon, he was even better than his master, Yu Wei. Bai Chong is also online. Why don't we play a game of ranking? Yu Wei formed a team and added Li Changsheng into the team and sent an online invitation to Bai Chong. At this moment, after Bai Chong and the others went down the mountain, they went to a restaurant for dinner because they were not in the mood to eat at noon and were a little hungry at night. They had just finished eating and were sitting there idly. Bai Chong took out her mobile phone and was about to play a game when she saw the ranking invitation sent by Yu Wei. Didn't the other party find trouble with Li Changsheng? Yu Wei is actually still in the mood to play games? Bai Chong was stunned and said in surprise. When the people around heard this, they all came over and saw that Yu Wei's account was indeed online, especially when they saw the name Longevity Immortal Venerable in the team. A girl said in surprise, "This Longevity Immortal Venerable can't be Li Changsheng, right? It seems that they are really fine. It's just that this is not normal." Sung Pan frowned and was puzzled. What's there to be confused about? To send a video to Yu Wei and ask. After Bai Chong finished speaking, she exited the game and directly made a video call on WeChat. A few seconds later, the video call was connected. Yu Wei, what's going on? Why are you still in the mood to play games? Aren't you afraid that the other party will find someone to take revenge on you? Hearing Bai Chang's question, Yu Wei smiled slightly. It's fine. The other party did find a helper, but it has been settled. Why don't you come back to play? The villa is empty, and it's boring with so few people. Bai Chong and the others were still in disbelief when they heard the confirmation from Yu Wei. Yu Wei, are you kidding? How could they let this matter go so easily? Of course I'm not kidding. Their people have all gone down the mountain. With that, Yu Wei climbed to the window and aimed the camera at the villa not far away. Look, the lights in the villa are completely dark. There's no one there. How about it? The crisis has been resolved. Do you want to come up the mountain and play together? No. Bai Chong shook her head. After the video call ended, everyone in the private room fell silent. At that time, they were afraid of being implicated and fled one by one. In the end, Li Changsheng easily settled the matter. They all felt their faces burning. At the same time, they were a little shocked by Li Changsheng's identity and power. Chapter 514. The incident of the hot spring villa was over. In the following days, Li Changsheng accompanied Yu Wei to play around. The holiday after the college entrance examination was destined to be an unforgettable memory for Yu Wei. On this day, Ma Yi called Li Changsheng and said that he wanted to invite Li Changsheng to dinner again. Just like the last time, he wanted to apologize to Li Changsheng. It turned out that after returning from the hot spring villa, Yu Xiangfei was restless every day. He was afraid that Li Changsheng would hate him. So he thought about it and found Ma Yi. Li Changsheng had nothing to do, so of course he did not refuse. When he arrived at the hotel, Ma Yi, Yu Xiangfei, Yuan Jiaojiao, and several other friends had been waiting for a long time at the door of the hotel. This time, because of the traffic jam, Li Changsheng was more than half an hour late, but there was no impatience on each of their faces. It was completely different from the last time they met. Changsheng, you are finally here. Please come in. Ma Yi had heard about what happened in the hot spring villa from his friends these days. It was inevitable that he would treat Li Changsheng differently, and he felt very proud to be able to know a friend like Li Changsheng. As for his other friends, their gazes towards Li Changsheng were filled with reverence. In the hot spring villa, he beat Zhang Yang and Lu Baldi. In the end, even Shui Gang of Yuanhua Logistics had to apologize to Li Changsheng in person. These things were completely like legends, and now this legendary figure was standing in front of them. For this ordinary young man who dared to look down on him, after entering the box, Yu Xiangfei knelt in front of Li Changsheng without waiting for others to speak. Brotherly, I said something I shouldn't have said that day. Please don't hold a grudge. After saying that, he slapped his own face more than 10 times in a row. Get up, Li Changsheng said lightly. Such a small person was like an ant. He was too lazy to care about him. Otherwise, how could he let him live until now? Thank you, brotherly. Only now did Yu Xiangfei's heart finally relax. As for the few friends around them who did not know about Li Changsheng's deeds, although their faces were expressionless, their eyes were filled with shock. Changsheng, let me toast you. Yuan Jiaojiao took the initiative to raise her glass. That day, she had a good impression of Li Changsheng. Now that she had seen Li Changsheng's strength, she felt that Li Changsheng was even more charming. Yuan Jiaojiao knew that Li Changsheng was accompanied by a stunning beauty like Yu Wei. She had no choice but to suppress the restless thoughts in her heart. I should be the one toasting you. I still have to thank you for your kind reminder that day. Li Changsheng also stood up and raised his glass. Indeed, the fact that Yuan Jiaojiao ran to remind Li Changsheng was already very rare. After all, such behavior was likely to cause dissatisfaction in the circle, such as Jiang Yitai and the other rich second-generation heirs. The two of them clinked their cups and drank the wine in their cups at the same time. Applause suddenly rang out around them, which also made the originally somewhat heavy atmosphere liven up. The few girls who disdained Li Changsheng that day also took the initiative to toast Li Changsheng and talk to him today. In contrast, Yu Xiangfei, who was quite popular with the girls that day, was now ignored by everyone. However, no one had any objections to Li Changsheng's welcome. It was as if once the tip of the iceberg of his status was revealed, any kind of treatment became a matter of course. The meal lasted for 2 hours. When it was over, everyone in the hall added Li Changsheng on WeChat. Li Changsheng did not refuse. On the way back, he blocked all the unimportant people. In September, it was time for school to start again. Stepping into the campus once again, Li Changsheng felt that things had changed, but the people had changed. After walking around the school field, Li Changsheng arrived at the sparring room. Today was the first day of school, so there was basically no one in the gymnasium. When he arrived at the door of the sparring room, he heard people talking inside. When he opened the door, he saw 2 rows of men and women in training clothes standing neatly. Wang Dongsheng was giving them a lecture, while Wei Hu and Jin Wenwen were sitting on the sofa against the wall. Looks like the team recently recruited a lot of new people. Li Changsheng thought to himself. From the moment he walked in, everyone's eyes fell on him. Teach coach. Wang Dongsheng suddenly turned around with a look of surprise on his face. Wei Hu and Jin Wenwen, who were sitting on the sofa, also instantly stood up. The 2 rows of men and women all looked at him curiously. They did not understand why Wang Dongsheng and the others had such a big reaction. After a semester, the National Youth College Fighting Competition should have ended. How were your results? Li Changsheng walked to the sofa and sat down, asking directly. Wang Dongsheng did not have time to give a lecture to the new juniors and hurriedly followed him. The 3 of us took the first, second, and third place trophies. As if she was presenting a treasure, Jin Wenwen took out her phone and showed Li Changsheng the photos when they won the competition. Not bad, not bad. Li Changsheng was also sincerely happy for them. I haven't been back for half a year. Didn't the school find a new coach for you? And what's up with those people? The school didn't want to find a coach for us, but we didn't agree. We only recognize you, Coach Li. Wang Dongsheng said. Then the school will let you do whatever you want. They have no choice. Those coaches can't even beat us, so they can only get the hell out of here. As for the people standing in a row, they joined later. We achieved excellent results in the National University Fighting Competition, so there are many people who want to join the fighting team. These are all good seedlings that were selected from among them. Speaking of this, Wang Dongsheng was quite proud. Now our team is in high demand. We have established a martial arts club. I'm the president, and Wei Hu and Wenwen are the vice presidents. I see. Chinese martial arts should indeed be carried forward. Li Changsheng nodded. Coach Li, do you want to go over and give them a lecture? Students these days can't take hardships. Every day, we give them a little more training, and they complain incessantly. When Coach trained us in the past, it was much worse. There's no need for a lecture. It's not a problem to meet them. Li Changsheng stood up and walked to the front of the students with Wang Dongsheng. These people were looking around just now. When they saw Li Changsheng and Wang Dongsheng walking over together, they immediately regained their serious looks. Obviously, they were often taught a lesson by Wang Dongsheng. This is Li Changsheng, Coach Li. He's the one I always tell you about, our teacher. Wang Dongsheng opened his mouth and introduced. Suddenly, the student's eyes lit up. He's the coach that you said was like a god, President? He's too young. Is he really that good? Hearing these people's questions, Wang Dongsheng waved his hand to signal them to quiet down. Then he smiled and said, It seems that everyone has some doubts about Coach Lee's strength. Why don't we let Coach Lee show everyone what he's got? Sure. Okay. Cheers came from the crowd. Chapter 515. President Wang Dongsheng, Vice President Wei Hu, and Vice President Jin Wen often talk about how strong you are. I always thought that you were a strong man. I didn't expect you to be so young and so thin. To be honest, I would like to meet you and exchange some moves. After all, I'm also a master. A young man stood out from the crowd. He was quite handsome, tall, and had an unruly look in his eyes. He used to study Muay Thai, but he was convinced by me and transferred to our martial arts society. He is also the best fighter among all of us. Wang Dongsheng introduced him to Li Changsheng with a smile when he saw the young man stand out. Why don't you show him some moves? Coach Li, let this guy be convinced. Usually, Wang Dongsheng held Li Changsheng in high esteem, which made all the members of the martial arts society very curious about Li Changsheng. They had imagined Li Changsheng's appearance and thought that Li Changsheng must be the tall and strong type. Now that they saw him in person, they couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Sure, Li Changsheng smiled. Then I will teach you a few moves. I will use one hand and let you have 3 moves. How about that? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the crowd started to jeer again. Good job, Coach Li. Tang Yu, show him well. Don't let Coach Li win too easily. Hearing the words of the people around him, the tall young man suddenly straightened his chest and smiled. Don't worry, I am not someone to be trifled with. Although Coach Li is the president's coach, there is a hierarchy of knowledge. He let me use one hand and let me have 3 moves. If I lose to him easily, it will show that I am not good enough. A man should never say that he is not good enough. Tang Yu's words caused a roar of laughter. Let's begin. Li Changsheng put one hand behind his back and made a gesture of invitation. Coach Li, sorry to offend you. The young man took a step forward and lifted his leg high. It turned into a shadow and slashed toward Li Changsheng with the sound of the wind. As soon as an expert made a move, one would know whether or not he was an expert. Tang Yu's move was exceptionally gorgeous, but it was undeniable that his foundation was especially solid. This move was definitely not just for show, but it was truly lethal. However, in the face of this attack, Li Changsheng only moved his body slightly and dodged the attack by a few centimeters. As expected of the president's coach, you are indeed agile. Although Tang Yu said so, his eyes were clearly unconvinced. He took another step forward and threw a flying kick at Li Changsheng's head. It was equally gorgeous, and the movements were wonderful. Many people cheered for him. This time, Li Changsheng leaned back. His foot whistled past the tip of Li Changsheng's nose. He was only half a centimeter away from hurting Li Changsheng. Seeing that another move had failed, Tang Yu's face finally showed some seriousness. After his body landed, he directly slammed his elbow into Li Changsheng's chest. This was a standard Muay Thai attack. He had been practicing Muay Thai since he was young, and the techniques of Muay Thai had long been integrated into his bones. If Wang Dongsheng was not strong enough to defeat him, he would not have transferred to the martial arts society. Seeing that the attack was crisp and clean, the people in the field were all experts. They could not help but cheer. In the face of such an attack, Li Changsheng did not dodge. He let his elbow hit his chest. Bang! A dull sound. Many girls exclaimed. They were very clear about Tang Yu's attack power. Usually, he could even penetrate a 5-centimeter thick plank. The impact on the chest was unimaginable. However, Li Changsheng's body did not even sway. He stood in the same place without moving an inch. Tang Yu's arm was a little numb from the shock, but the fighting spirit in his eyes was stronger. Coach Li, you're not simple, but your chest must be hurting right now. My elbow is not that easy to take. After saying that, he suddenly took a big stride forward. His fist was like a long spear that went straight to the center line, hitting Li Changsheng's face. You overestimate your strength. Li Changsheng smiled slightly. If an ordinary person were to be hit by him like this, they would feel pain in their muscles as long as they moved, and their speed would naturally slow down. Therefore, this seemingly simple straight punch was very difficult to dodge. This Tang Yu did have the right to be arrogant. He had taken into account the two attacks and the opponent's physical condition. Unfortunately, his opponent was Li Changsheng. He did not expect that the elbow attack that he thought would cause a lot of damage to Li Changsheng was actually not much different from scratching an itch. When the fist reached Li Changsheng's cheek, Tang Yu's face was already filled with pride. At such a close distance, Li Changsheng still did not react. In his mind, this punch could definitely make Li Changsheng's face bloom. At the same time, there was some disappointment in his eyes. Wang Dongsheng was so strong, but Coach Li, who Wang Dongsheng admired so much, was only at this level. Tang Yu, come on. Tang Yu, good job. The coach who defeated the president. You will be our idol from now on. There were shouts all around. It was the first time they had seen Li Changsheng, and they had been with Tang Yu for a long time. Naturally, they were on Tang Yu's side. In this regard, Wang Dongsheng and the other two just smiled. Li Changsheng's strength was not only at this level. Even if it seemed that Tang Yu had the upper hand and Li Changsheng was in danger, they were not worried at all. Sure enough, just as Tang Yu's fist was about to hit Li Changsheng's cheek, he suddenly showed a surprised expression. He saw a palm blocking the end of his fist. At the same time, he saw Li Changsheng's mysterious smile. Not good. Tang Yu had a bad feeling in his heart. Just as he was about to make a move, he saw Li Changsheng's palm lightly meet Tang Yu's fist. Tang Yu's arm instantly twisted, and an intense pain came over him. He couldn't help but cry out in pain. The next moment, Li Changsheng's hand shook slightly, and a huge force rushed into his body like endless waves. Tang Yu's whole body involuntarily jumped back. He bounced on the ground several times like a spring, and then fell on his back with a plop. The students who were cheering for Tang Yu in the field suddenly stopped, as if someone had grabbed their throat. It was quiet for more than 10 seconds before the discussion started again. At this time, Tang Yu patted the dust off his body and stood up from the ground. He moved his arm, and the pain just now had disappeared. It was like a dream from beginning to end. When he looked at Li Changsheng again, his eyes were full of admiration. He saluted and said, "Coach Li is really amazing. I am convinced." Chapter 516. Originally, everyone had doubts about Li Changsheng, but after Tang Yu was defeated, they were all convinced. Tang Yu was the strongest among the group of students, but he was easily defeated by Li Changsheng in the battle just now, especially that last move. Li Changsheng didn't seem to have made any big movements, just a light flick of his hand, and Tang Yu jumped out like a marionette. This was undoubtedly a miraculous thing in the eyes of the students. Like the Taekwondo club and the karate club, they usually perform hand splitting. A 2-centimeter thick wooden board can be smashed into pieces with one palm. Why don't Coach Li perform for us? A student suggested. Yeah, I joined the Chinese martial arts club, but many of the students around me didn't care, especially those who joined the Taekwondo club. They are so awesome every day. Why don't you perform for us? I'll record a video and show it to them. They'll be speechless. All the students spoke up. They took out their phones one by one and looked at Li Changsheng. Okay, since everyone has such a request, I'll perform for you. Li Changsheng was in a good mood today. Seeing that 2 students had already gone to get wooden boards, he couldn't help but wave his hand. Taekwondo and karate performing hand splitting wooden boards are child's play. In front of the profound Chinese martial arts, they're just fancy moves. Today, I'll show you something fierce. With that, Li Changsheng's eyes swept around and fell on the huge steel pillar in the middle of the training room. He stepped forward and walked straight to the pillar. What is Coach Li doing? All the students present were puzzled. Not to mention them. Even Wang Dongsheng and the others were puzzled. Li Changsheng walked to the front of the steel pillar and looked back at the crowd with a smile. Today, I'll open your eyes. After saying that, before anyone could react, he suddenly attacked and punched the steel structure. Bang! A huge boom sounded, forming an invisible sound wave that impacted everyone's eardrums. The whole room seemed to have experienced an earthquake. The ground was shaking, and the sound lasted for more than 30 seconds before it stopped. Everyone shook their heads subconsciously. They were a little dizzy from the shock. "Coach Lee, is your hand okay?" Tang Yu asked worriedly. When such a powerful punch landed on a steel structure, the recoil force was enough to break a person's hand. The others also looked concerned. "Of course I'm fine." Li Changsheng raised his palm and gestured to everyone. "Look!" At this moment, someone exclaimed. Where Li Changsheng's fist had smashed, there was a clear fist mark, as if it had been branded. Even the lines on his fingers were clearly visible. Everyone gathered around and stared at the pillar with shock in their eyes. "This!" Many people couldn't help but gasp. The steel structure was made of pure steel, and its hardness was dozens of times higher than ordinary iron. Not to mention a fist, even a sledgehammer might not leave a mark on it. How terrifying was it to leave a fist mark on a steel structure? It was simply inhuman. When everyone turned their heads to look at Li Changsheng again, their eyes were filled with reverence. Even Wang Dongsheng felt his skin crawl when he saw this scene. They knew Li Changsheng's strength, but they were still shocked by Li Changsheng's move. How strong is Coach Li? Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. "How about it? I told you that Coach Li was very strong, but you didn't believe me. Now you're convinced, right?" Wang Dongsheng suppressed the shock in his heart and pretended to be relaxed. Everyone nodded. "Coach Li is really a god. You guys from the martial arts club are always bragging. Don't you feel ashamed?" At this moment, an untimely voice sounded. "Who is it?" Everyone turned their heads and saw the door of the training room being pushed open. A group of people in white training clothes barged in, led by a young man with long hair. "It's the Taekwondo club." There was a commotion in the crowd. "Lu Wenlong, why are you here?" Wang Dongsheng asked with a frown after seeing this group of people. "Ha! President Wang, what are you asking?" "I'm here to clean house." As he spoke, he looked at the tall Tang Yu. "Tang Yu, you used to be the vice president of the Taekwondo club, but now you've become an ordinary member of the martial arts club. Do you know that because of your departure, there are rumors in the school that the Taekwondo club is all show and no substance? Even the vice president has run away. I'm here to ask you to immediately announce your withdrawal from the martial arts club and return to the Taekwondo club." Tang Yu shook his head when he heard the other party's words. "President Liu, it's my freedom to join any interest club. Even the school can't control me. I've learned all kinds of fighting skills over the years, but only today did I know that Chinese martial arts are the most powerful. Tang Yu, it seems that you're really stubborn. You'll regret your decision." After he finished speaking, he looked at Wang Dongsheng. "President Wang, let me give you a piece of advice. Kick Tang Yu out of the martial arts club immediately. Otherwise, you'll be making an enemy of the Taekwondo club." "Ha!" Wang Dongsheng couldn't help but laugh. "Are you threatening me?" "The last thing I'm afraid of is being threatened." "Why? Are you going to bite me if I don't kick Tang Yu out of the martial arts club? If you're not convinced, we can have a spar." Wang Dongsheng had just won the National University fighting competition, and his strength had improved by leaps and bounds recently. Naturally, he didn't care about the president of a small Taekwondo club. "Oof. Wang Dongsheng, I know you're strong, but don't be arrogant. If I can't take care of you, someone else can." After he finished speaking, he stepped aside and a young man in his 20s walked out from behind him. The young man wasn't tall, but his body looked very sturdy. His skin was a little tanned and his eyes were bright. Occasionally, there would be a flash of light in them. No one dared to underestimate him. "This is the new vice president of the Taekwondo club, Wu Hongyi. Let him have a taste of your skills." As soon as he finished speaking, the young man stared at Wang Dongsheng like an eagle, giving off a valiant aura. "You think you're qualified to challenge our president? Let me teach you a lesson." Wei Hu had a bad temper. He immediately stood out and said in a loud voice, "Humph. Then I'll take care of you first. Then I'll take care of your president." Wu Hongyi took a step on the ground and rushed towards Wei Hu like an arrow leaving the bow. Bam! His punch forced Wei Hu to take a step back. Immediately after, the other party leaped up and unleashed a barrage of attacks. Wei Hu was unable to react in time and was forced to retreat continuously. Wang Dongsheng, who was originally very confident in Wei Hu, couldn't help but look serious when he saw this. His opponent was very strong. His moves weren't flashy, and it didn't look like he was using Taekwondo's attacks. The Taekwondo club sent someone to challenge him, but he didn't use Taekwondo's moves. This was undoubtedly a very ironic thing. However, if Wei Hu was defeated, it would be known that Taekwondo defeated Chinese martial arts in the future. Chapter 517. Bam Bam, Bam Bam. The sound of their bodies colliding rang out continuously. Wei Hu was a strength-type fighter with a strong physique. However, he was unable to gain the upper hand under the opponent's fierce attacks. A minute later, he was kicked in the chest by the opponent. He fell to the ground with a thud, causing the ground to tremble slightly. He lost. Suddenly, the stadium fell silent. The martial arts club members were all staring with their eyes wide open. Wei Hu was the runner-up of the National High School Youth Fighting Competition not long ago. His strength was second only to Wang Dongsheng in the martial arts club. However, he was defeated by the vice president of the Taekwondo club. Compared to the ugly expressions of the martial arts club members, the Taekwondo club members cheered. "How is it? Now you know how powerful our Taekwondo is?" Lu Wenlong, the president of the Taekwondo club, said proudly. "I don't think he's using Taekwondo." Li Changsheng snorted coldly. Indeed, from the opponent's series of attacks, most of them were Muay Thai attacks. There was even a hint of modern boxing mixed in. There was no trace of Taekwondo at all. Huh, why? Can't the martial arts club afford to lose? Lu Wenlong smiled coldly. You better fire Tang Yu today. Otherwise, I'll ruin the reputation of your martial arts club. Then I'd like to see what you're capable of. Wang Dongsheng unbuttoned his shirt and moved his wrists. In the next moment, Wu Hongyi dashed towards Wang Dongsheng like an arrow. He was a ruthless person. Since he came in, he did not waste any time and attacked directly. Bam! Their bodies collided. Wang Dongsheng actually took 3 steps back. Although Wang Dongsheng's overall strength was stronger than Wei Hu's, even a strength-type fighter like Wei Hu was suppressed, let alone Wang Dongsheng. Wait a minute. At this moment, Li Changsheng finally spoke. Let me exchange some pointers with you. Wu Hongyi's attacks just now were swift and fierce. In fact, his overall strength should be about the same as Wang Dongsheng's. However, what was more powerful than Wang Dongsheng was the murderous aura around him. This meant that he had killed people and had experienced life and death situations before. From this point alone, neither Wang Dongsheng nor Wei Hu could compare to him. When 2 rivals met on a narrow path, the courageous would win. The opponent's fighting style was ferocious. In terms of innate talent, Wang Dongsheng and Wei Hu had already lost to him. He didn't know where Lu Wenlong had found such a ruthless person to challenge him. It was obvious that he had come prepared. Li Changsheng stepped forward, and Wang Dongsheng stepped back. The corners of Wang Dongsheng's lips curled up. "And who are you?" "I'm their coach." Li Changsheng stood there motionless. Wu Hongyi's expression suddenly turned serious. This was because he realized that even though Li Changsheng was standing there casually, he couldn't find any flaws. "Wu Hongyi, teach him a lesson." Lu Wenlong shouted, not noticing Li Changsheng's abnormality. Wu Hongyi nodded and suddenly raised his head. Like a ferocious tiger that had been accumulating power for a long time, a terrifying aura gushed out from his body. "Coach Li, watch out." The students of the Martial Arts Society cried out in surprise. This was because it was obvious that Wu Hongyi's attack this time was more ferocious than before. It's just a small trick. When the opponent pounced in front of him, Li Changsheng didn't dodge. He allowed the opponent's fist to hit his chest. Smack! A crisp sound rang out. The opponent's face revealed a smug look. However, it quickly turned into shock. This was because Li Changsheng's body didn't move at all despite his almost all-out attack. His eyes were filled with doubt at first. Then, he seemed to have realized something and wanted to retreat. However, it was too late. Li Changsheng suddenly raised his leg and kicked his lower abdomen. Bang! Wu Hongyi, who was incomparably ferocious just a moment ago, flew out like a kite with a broken string. He flew 6 to 7 meters and crashed into the wall behind him. The arena fell into silence. The cheers of the Taekwondo club members came to an abrupt end. "How is this possible?" Lu Wenlong blurted out. "Since you're the president of the Taekwondo club, let me challenge you." Li Changsheng didn't wait for Lu Wenlong to react, as his body turned into an afterimage and rushed towards Lu Wenlong. No, Lu Wenlong had just spat out a word when his body flew out horizontally. At this moment, the faces of the Taekwondo club members turned purple. It was embarrassing enough to find someone who didn't practice Taekwondo to challenge the martial arts society. However, in the end, they were completely defeated by the martial arts society. If word got out, the Taekwondo club's reputation would be ruined. At this moment, Wu Hongyi, who was sent flying by Li Changsheng, struggled to get up from the ground while clutching his lower abdomen. Blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. "Who exactly are you? How can you be so strong?" Hearing his words, Li Changsheng only smiled slightly. "You've overdrawn your body's potential by practicing the secret technique. If I'm not wrong, your body will rapidly age and your organs will deteriorate in less than 10 years. The power gained by overdrawing your potential won't last long." When he first heard Li Changsheng's words, Wu Hongyi was still a little unconvinced. "Li, even if you're stronger than me, do you think you can talk nonsense about my body's condition? Is that so?" Li Changsheng smiled slightly. "You've been practicing hard every day to stimulate your body's potential. Every time you fight or hit an object, do you feel an unbearable pain in your chest?" This pain started to appear 3 years ago. In the past, it would only appear once or twice a month. But now, every time you fight, you have to endure the torture. Am I right? When Li Changsheng finished speaking, Wu Hongyi's face was filled with shock. He was even more shocked than when he was sent flying by Li Changsheng. Other than the doctor, he had never told anyone else about his body's symptoms. In the past, he had always thought that it was an injury he had suffered a few years ago and that it would slowly disappear with time. Who knew that it was getting worse and worse? He had also checked a lot of ancient books and visited a lot of old Chinese doctors. However, even after drinking a lot of Chinese medicine, it was useless. A few days ago, he went to the hospital for a checkup. In the end, the doctor concluded that there was nothing wrong with his body. He never thought that Li Changsheng would be able to say that it was because of his martial arts. In fact, Wu Hongyi had also thought that the pain in his body might be related to his martial arts. However, he was half a martial arts fanatic and was unwilling to believe it. "Looking at your moves, you should have practiced karate, modern fighting techniques, and many other killing techniques. The only pity is that you haven't practiced Chinese martial arts. You haven't practiced Chinese martial arts." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Wu Hongyi refused to accept it and said, "Internal martial arts are weak. The so-called Chinese martial arts have already declined. I've challenged many Chinese martial arts experts, but they were not my opponent. The reason why the Chinese martial arts experts are not your opponent is because they have not been tempered between life and death. You should know what kind of environment you grew up in. They're like flowers in a greenhouse. How can they be compared to the stubborn weeds that grew under the ravages of the storm? You only defeated a few Chinese martial arts experts, and you say that Chinese martial arts are not good. What a joke." After Li Changsheng's words, Wu Hongyi's face changed for a while. He opened his mouth, but did not know how to refute. "Moreover, I also practice Chinese martial arts. Didn't you lose to me?" After saying this, Wu Hongyi completely lowered his head. Indeed, the killing techniques that he was proud of seemed to have lost all their power in front of Li Changsheng and became vulnerable. "The pain in your body is caused by your martial arts. If you don't treat it, it will eventually become a scourge that will take your life. There are only a few people in the world who can cure your illness, and I happen to be one of them." After Li Changsheng's words, Wu Hongyi suddenly raised his head in surprise. "Really? Of course it's true. However, I have something to ask you. If you answer me honestly, I can help you get rid of the root of your illness. Otherwise, your life and death has nothing to do with me. What is it?" Although Wu Hongyi's face did not have much expression, his eyes had clearly become eager. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.